What up, everybody? Good morning and happy Wednesday. Dan Kasper Show's on the air. Radio dials, you got a couple of those puppies coming at you. 105.1 FM, 790 AM. Also online, sportstalk1051.com. You got the video stream up and rolling as well on Facebook and Twitter and YouTube. But happy making the turn Wednesday. Appreciate you making us part of your start if you're already up and at it here. What do we got on the good old game plan here this morning? Well, much like the way their entire regular season went, Badgers falling in the NIT Final Four last night. Looked like they did have things in control in the first half. 41-29. Chucky Hepburn was on fire from three in the first half. But like the rest of the or like the regular season, or kind of went for the Badgers, got cold in the second half. Just 13 points total in the second. 13 points total. Went cold down that stretch, 8-9 minutes too, without scoring a bucket. And then, if you haven't seen it, I'm sure most of you have, the final play where they didn't even get a shot off. Didn't even get a shot off to try to tie it at the end there. So season is in the books. Season's in the books for this Badger basketball team, falling a game short of the NIT championship. I know a lot of Badger fans, again, kind of frustrated. At least they were on the socials, Facebook and Twitter and such. Maybe calling a little bit for a change at the head coaching spot for this Badger team. You think it's is it head coach? Is it the players on the roster? Is it the talent level? Probably somewhere in the middle, probably a little bit of both and such. But I don't think Chris McIntosh is going to let go of Greg Gard this year. I don't see that happening. If you want to make the case that this upcoming season is, I should say next season now, is going to be maybe a little bit of a make or break, or at least the spotlight might be a little bit higher on the program, I would agree with that. I could buy that. I don't think at this point in time, I don't think Greg Gard's going to lose his job. I know there was quite a few fans, at least the vocal ones, that were calling for it. I don't think that's going to happen this year. But if you want to make the case that this next season the spotlight's going to be a little bit brighter, I'd buy that. I absolutely would buy that. What this team needs, though, is they need a dude. They need that go-to dude. They need that guy that can end these cold stretches. I mean, to go on a consistent rate through not just last night, but through the entire season of not getting a bucket, not getting a basket in like 7, 8, 9 minutes. That's just ridiculous. You can't close out games. You need a closer. You need a guy. You need that guy that you can put the ball in his hands and he can create. I've been talking, a lot of people kind of thought, hey, do they need some more post players? Need a little bit more size down low and such? Heck, I think they need a perimeter guy or somebody who you could just, put the ball in his hands and let him get to work and end those cold stretches. But frustrating, no doubt about it. The entire season has been was incredibly frustrating. And just kind of a weird season. I mean, high expectation. I shouldn't say high expectations right away, because if you believe the preseason poll rankings, there was like no expectations for this Badger basketball team, and then they start off the season pretty darn good and get up as high as 13, 14 in the nation rankings, and then as soon as like the Big Ten play portion started, falling down. So I don't know, but we'll talk a little bit about college hoops, wrapping up that Badger season. Matt LaFleur chatted yesterday at the NFC coaches breakfast at the league meetings and such. Tried to kind of not talk a whole lot about Aaron Rodgers. He did mention that I've got nothing, and I've got much appreciation for what Aaron has done for so many in our and our organization is disappointed that they didn't win a Super Bowl together. But I think Matt LaFleur is, kudos to him for bringing this up that, because he kind of mentioned a lot of other people, because of Aaron Rodgers, coaches, maybe some other players benefited from having Aaron Rodgers for, in LaFleur's case, maybe just for a few seasons in there. But kudos to him for acknowledging. He's like, yeah, we had the benefit of him. Some players have benefited from him. Some coaches have benefited from being with him, whether it's been like pay raises or maybe, certain positions or promotions, that sort of thing. And this is where it's like, okay, kind of been saying it for the last couple weeks now. Now that pressure moves on to the coaching staff. No Aaron Rodgers, no more excuses. And he kind of, LaFleur yesterday too, kind of like just downplayed. I shouldn't say downplay, but tried to lower the expectations for Jordan Love this year. Tried to tamper those expectations. As he said, certainly I think we're fooling ourselves if we think he's going to go out there and perform at a level to the like of an Aaron Rodgers. This guy is a once-in-a-lifetime generational talent, and I don't think it necessarily started that way when he first started, but he progressed into that. It's going to be a progression. And he's right. He's absolutely right. Now, some people will still try to put Jordan Love on that pedestal right away to compare him to Aaron Rodgers, much like a lot of people did with Aaron when he first started in 08 to Favre. Not everybody, but some did. But this is where, again, that pressure, or more of the pressure, is going to fall on, I believe, Matt LaFleur. Is he a premier play caller? This will showcase his talents as a head coach. This will showcase his talents as a play caller on the offensive side. Other players are going to, all right, bigger roles, more on their shoulders. It would, and that includes Joe Barry and his defense. Let's not kid ourselves. I mean, help out this guy, help out this new quarterback and such by just playing some astounding defense out there, okay? Pick up the slack here a little bit, and let's have a little bit better of a season. Maybe not a little bit better, but a whole lot better of a season than what you did last year. So the pressure, I think, is kind of now. You can't use that excuse of like, okay, we got Aaron Rodgers, that sort of thing. No more excuses. We're going to find out answers about Matt LaFleur. We're going to find out answers about Brian Gutekunst. We're going to find out answers about Joe Barry and some of these other players on here. But I did appreciate what LaFleur said yesterday about, he not many people, I don't think, would acknowledge this. Saying he's done talking about Aaron, he's done so much for myself, my family, our coaches' families, so many people within the organization, other players. A lot of people have been rewarded, quite frankly, because of his ability to go out there and play at such a high level. I'm just going to leave it at that. So we'll go through some more and some other comments from Matt LaFleur yesterday, talking a little bit about training camp, preseason, defensive players. What's the role for Rasul Douglas this year? Maybe a little surprising. Eric Stokes, kind of have a update on him, and maybe not a great one. But he did acknowledge he's planning joint practices with another team, so won't get that with the Jets and such. So some other stuff we're going to go through here a little bit. And one of my questions, I guess I'll kind of throw out to you, is how much do you trust Matt LaFleur to get Jordan Love ready to be a starting caliber quarterback in this league? And this is where I think, again, maybe some won't acknowledge it, but I think you do have to give some acknowledgement to Mike McCarthy getting Aaron Rodgers ready as a starting quarterback in this league and being a pretty darn successful starting quarterback in this league. Got to give some of that credit to Mike McCarthy. And Mike McCarthy, he had a lot of experience working with quarterbacks, a little bit more than what Matt LaFleur maybe had prior to being in the position where he's at right now. Mike McCarthy worked a little bit with Montana and Kansas City. He was the Saints offensive coordinator when former Packers backup quarterback Aaron Brooks was actually kind of lighting it up down there. Worked a little bit with Favre for 1 year in '99 as the quarterback's coach. You look at LaFleur, he was Matt Ryan's quarterback's coach when Matt Ryan won MVP. He's been around here a little bit too. But again, I think this is going to put more on the shoulders, more pressure on Matt LaFleur, and this will answer a lot of questions about it as a coach and as a play caller. But where's your confidence level on Matt LaFleur that he can kind of do something similar to how Mike McCarthy brought along Aaron Rodgers? I think it is a benefit for Jordan Love to have Tom Clements as his quarterback coach. I think that is a benefit to have a veteran quarterback coach there. And as Aaron has even mentioned before too, you can see a difference in Jordan Love's, fundamentals and play with just the 1 year under Tom Clements. So I don't know. Maybe we'll hit that up coming up here shortly too. Brewers finishing up their spring training season with a W against the Colorado Rockies yesterday. So now it's on the opening day tomorrow against the Chicago. If you want to start, I was going to save it for tomorrow. But if you want to start to kind of make some predictions and such, you can go ahead and do so right now. But the one thing with the Brewers yesterday, Keston Hiura is back with the organization, cleared waivers, staying with the Brewers. So he was outrighted to AAA after the 29 other teams declined to pick him up. And because this was Keston's first career outright assignment, he didn't have a chance to elect free agency. Matt Arnold, just the other day, said he could be a big part of our team coming back if he ends up back in the big leagues with the Brewers. That wouldn't surprise me at all. So Keston back with the ball club, but in AAA. And we know Keston's had success at AAA, right? I mean, he puts up numbers, but again, is it, when he gets up to that major league, can he be consistent at the major league level? I mean, he's had big hits at the major league level and such, but the consistency is the big part, right? And now you got Rowdy Tellez and Luke Voigt ahead of him on the depth chart if you're kind of looking at first base options out there. So, but I think we're all hoping that Keston Hiura can kind of, figure things out and be a consistent threat at the plate. But yeah, 1 day away. Tomorrow it is opening day, baby. Does it feel like baseball season yet for everybody out there? Feel like it? So we'll throw a little baseball talk in there. Bucks back in action tonight too, going up against the Indiana Pacers. They got a little bit of help last night thanks to the Washington Wizards. Washington Wizards picking up the W against the Boston Celtics. So Bucks now up 2.5. 2.5 in the Eastern Conference playoffs. I'm going to spend some time talking about the Bucks and our sports vigilante next hour here. But I might as well give you a little bit of a tease of what it's going to be about here. It's going to be kind of like a little grind my gears mixed in with a little sports vigilante for this Wednesday. Because if you've been paying attention to a lot of the national programs out there, and I'm not trying to call them out or anything like that. I'm just saying this has been a topic for a lot of programs out there right now, has been MVP in the NBA. I mean, Dan Patrick just the other day was talking about it with Ray Allen. Pick Joel Embiid. He gave his Jokic gave his reasons why. And when you hear the MVP conversation, the name that you kind of casually hear once in a while, but I would argue not nearly enough, is Giannis. Call me a homer. Call me, favoring the guy and all that. But for the life of me, why isn't his name getting mentioned a whole lot more in terms of the MVP race? And the reason I'm bringing this up, and again, I'm not trying to call out like Ray Allen or anything, but the reasons Ray Allen kind of gave were reasons that I always thought MVP was a big part of definition. Like one of his main things was, you take that player off the team. How good is that team? How bad do they become if you take that player off? Which you could say for a lot of the best players in any sport, right? You can make that case for a ton of players. So I don't think that should be the ultimate defining definition of an MVP. But, you got Joel Embiid, who's leading the league in scoring right now, 33.3 points per game. And I just like, okay, but, he does have James Harden, and James Harden is leading the league in assists. Jokic on there, he's actually fourth in the league in assists at 9.9. For a big man, that's pretty darn impressive. And he's second in rebounds right now, just 0.2 above Giannis. But I just feel like Giannis needs to be involved in that conversation a little bit more. And it's puzzling to me why he's not. Maybe I'm just being a big time homer and such. But conversations why are like, Jokic, best player, best team on the Western Conference, and there's no doubt you take the Joker off the Nuggets. The Nuggets aren't the Nuggets. But I think you can make the same case for Giannis. And Drew Holiday has stepped up in big time moments and won some games for this Bucks team. But let's be real, Giannis isn't on this Bucks team. Bucks are not title contenders. They're just not. And I think when you look at some of the numbers, when you break it all down too with the Greek Freak, with Giannis here, just looking, and we'll deep dive into it in the next hour and such, but the efficiency that he does it in too. He averages fewer minutes than a guy like Joel Embiid. I mean, you're looking at the minutes per game right now that Giannis has played. And it's actually the lowest of his career, but it's the efficiency of it. 32.2 minutes per game. Last year was 32.9. The year prior, 33.0. I misspoke. 2019, he had 30.4 minutes per game. But this is the most. And I think a lot of people focus on the points per game aspect of it. This is the most he's averaged per season in his entire career. He's never averaged more than 30 points per game. He's gotten close. Last year was 29.9. One of his MVP years, 1920, was 29.5, but this year's 31.1. He's doing it in fewer minutes. So why isn't Giannis getting talked about more? Or do people already in the association and who cover the association have Giannis fatigue? They already have Giannis fatigue, and why? I mean, I don't know. And I don't, okay, the Milwaukee market. Nah. Denver. I mean, when you think of the Western Conference, not many people think of the Nuggets. They still talk about the Lakers over there. They're talking about the Suns, KD's return. They're talking about, the Clippers. I know a lot of people will probably say it's the markets. Giannis already won 2. So I'm not necessarily buying the market part of it. If you want to say, hey, maybe it's because the national peeps don't give enough attention to Giannis and the Bucks, okay. I could buy a little bit of that because, I mean, yeah, you go on a lot of the major stuff out there, and the Bucks and Giannis are not on that list. But I don't think it has nothing to necessarily do with the size of Milwaukee. Maybe it's just the perception of the area and the Bucks and that Bucks team. But we'll hit that up coming up a little bit later on here too. So what else we got? Stock reports, whose stock is rising, whose stock is falling. You can play along with us. We'll do another edition of Showdown coming up in the 8 o'clock hour too. So let's get things rolling here on the leadoff though. We'll chat a little Badger hoops, their season over with after a collapse last night in the second half. We'll go over some more comments from Packers head coach Matt LaFleur, Who's under the most pressure this upcoming Packers season? You know, a lot of people are going to look at Jordan Love and such, and rightfully, and yeah, he's up there. But can you make the case that it's more Matt LaFleur, more Joe Barry, more the coaching staff? And what did LaFleur say about some of the defensive players, and what did he have to say about Joe Barry yesterday? We'll go through some of that too. So we'll take a quick break, and we got a couple things coming up on the leadoff. Talk a little Badger hoops. Go through some of the comments from Coach, all that fun stuff. All right, we'll be back after these few words. We know Cabin Coffee has an amazing coffee menu that features so many different options from hot, iced, and blended coffee, but their food menu is what sets them apart from those other places. And homemade sandwiches like their Tasty Club that will easily fill you up because it's not some small sandwich that costs a lot. Amazing breakfast wraps and fresh baked goods every morning. So the next time you're wondering where you should grab a quick bite to eat, think Cabin Coffee in Altoona, River Prairie Drive over there. All right, let's get things rolling here this morning on the leadoff. Badger Hoops season's in the books, done, finito. That game, or at least the second half of that game, was kind of a carbon copy of how the majority part of the season went. Badger started off hot, 41 points in the first half, 41 to 29. Chucky Hepburn was dropped 15 in the first half, 3 pointers, and then second half, nothing from him, and like practically nothing from the Badgers. Outscored 27 to 13. Cold stretch again. The Badgers, no point, held without a point for the final 9 minutes. 9 minutes and 7 seconds of the game. They made just one of their last 16 shots and missed and had 10 straight misses. 10 straight misses. Now, North Texas is the nation's leader in scoring defense at 55.7 points per game. But no offense to North Texas either. This is something we have seen from Wisconsin all season long. Cold stretches again. Tyler Wall at the line with a chance to tie the game. Misses both free throws from the charity stripe. Badgers get the stop, get the turnover, and kind of like just that final two possessions, if we count, right before when Greg Gard called the timeout with 5 seconds left too. I know a lot of people are upset that Greg Gard called that timeout there too, including was it Fran, the color commentator, and but nonetheless, it just looked like a cluster. You know what? A lot of guys. I mean, that last shot, it looked like nobody wanted to take the shot. A little two extra pass, oh, maybe an extra pass, maybe a little couple extra passes there at the end, resulted in a turnover. Couldn't even get a shot up. Couldn't even get a shot up. Nothing. Not even a shot. Not even a chance. Which was just the perfect example of everything about this Badger basketball team throughout the season. Somebody for next year, I don't know if it's somebody on this roster now. I don't know if it's going to be somebody in a transfer portal or coming in, but somebody needs to be the guy. Like that guy that you can put the ball in his hands, and he's not gonna let your team go scoreless for 9 minutes. He's not gonna be afraid to be the one that shoots the ball, those clutch shots. He embraces those clutch shots. He wants those clutch shots. He wants the ball in his hand. I don't have that guy right now. It's just nothing. Nothing. I mean, I don't know the stats in front of me. Like, I don't know if we can look this up, but I'd be curious, like, what is the record or the most times in a season where a team has gone in the second half of a game where they've gone, like, scoreless in the last 7 minutes or more in a ball game? Because it sure seems like Wisconsin would be up there. I mean, this is a common narrative throughout the entire season with this team. For whatever reason, when it's the second half, maybe this team doesn't need halftime or something like that. I don't know, but it's I guess we shouldn't be too frustrated after the game last night because it's something that we've seen throughout the entire year. And I know a lot of people, or at least the vocal ones on social media are calling for a change in leadership, calling for, a new head coach for the men's basketball team. I personally don't think it's going to happen this year. I don't think Chris McIntosh is going to make that move for this year. But if you wanna say that the program is gonna be under a bigger spotlight for this upcoming season, I'd buy that. I'd get on board with that. And I guess never say never with McIntosh because, look what he's done with the football program. men's hockey right now and such, but I just if I were a betting person, my gut my gut tells me he's not gonna make a move this year, but if we see some of the, a similar thing next year or even worse, then yeah, I think you might see a change. 'Cause I think it's pretty obvious that one thing is that Chris McIntosh has shown in his very, very, very young beginnings as an athletic director is that he's got high expectations for all of his athletic programs out there and not necessarily afraid to make some moves if he has to. I don't know if he's gonna do the guard one this year. I almost feel like maybe it's kind of similar to Paul Chris at the end of his, last complete season. You know what I mean? Like, then going into his, this past season where he was let go halfway through. Maybe something similar to like Greg Gard in this situation. But nonetheless, frustrating up and down season for this Badgers team that I think has a lot of people scratching their heads here a little bit. And maybe for once we should have actually paid attention to the preseason rankings here a little bit because I mean the preseason experts were very high on this Badgers team. We got a little teased with it in the early going, high rankings after the first month or so of the season, couple months. Started to buy into this team. I was one of them. I'll admit it. Got excited about this team. Another example of nobody respecting the Badger basketball team and nobody giving them any love. And look where they're at, winning ball games, climbing up in the rankings, top 15. And then it's like they came down to earth as soon as the Big Ten season started and finished in the Big Ten Conference around where they were first predicted at. So maybe we just got a little too excited and we increased those expectations a little bit for this Badger team when maybe we should have just been not buying in after that first month or so. It's still this point to start off that the way they did and the way they finished. I mean, there's no excuse for that, especially when you look at how some of these games finished off for the Badgers. I mean, how many leads did they blow? How many close games at the end they couldn't finish? I mean, the difference between I mean, even like last night to go scoreless for 9 minutes and you lose by 2 with a chance to tie it. You weren't even getting blown out of these games. They were so close. I mean, it's just like it would be like a possession or 2 possessions would have made the difference in how many of these games this year for this Badger team. Probably 1 or 2 in a lot of them, and a lot of those losses. But you can also make the argument, yeah, but a lot of those wins too might have been 1 or 2 and have gone the other way. You're right. You're absolutely right. So I hope Greg Gard's and his team kinda looking at transfer portal, see if they can get anybody to come in, anybody to kinda be that guy. I don't know if they're gonna be able to get anybody to come in. You're starting to see other people, players start to announce that they're going in the portal and such. Whether they can whether they can add somebody or a couple guys remains to be seen. But, yeah, I would say, in my opinion, this program gotta be under the spotlight here a little bit for next year. Has to be. Gotta see some improvement. And I think it's a lot of it is because too now that we've got these higher expectations for a lot of these athletic programs, football and basketball, that, we wanna see these teams go a little far in the tournament. We wanna see these teams win a few games in the tournament and compete for some big time championships, national championships and such. We have these higher expectations, and there's nothing wrong at all with higher expectations. You want high expectations for your favorite sports team. You want 'em. It's the goal of every team, at least it should be. Speaking of, expectations, switching gears here a little bit to the football side of things, going over some of the comments from Matt LaFleur. Again, he kind of He said a couple things about Rodgers and such, and then, kind of shut the door on that sort of thing. We went through that already, but he did mention a few other things, specifically surrounding the defense. Matt LaFleur was asked why he expects the Packers defense to start 2023 well with Joe Barry after a strong close of 2022 when a strong finish to 2021 didn't translate to that early last season. LaFleur said he's more involved on defense now in the past. We'll see if that's a good thing. I think Joe did a good job of scaling back a little bit as the season progressed, and I think you saw the effects of that. I thought that allowed our guys to play faster. LaFleur also saying that Rasul Douglas, for all the speculation about there, could he move to the safety spot? Kind of maybe throw that out the window. Matt LaFleur said his best position is outside corner. He thinks Douglas can play safety, but he won't start there this spring. He definitely has the intelligence and the ability to play wherever, but for us, he's best when he plays outside. So if you remember, last year, training camp, preseason, was that whole star position. Who's going to play the nickel role? It was Douglas with his first shot on it. It was going to be Jair and Eric Stokes on the outside. It sounds like that's going to be over with. And that Keyshawn Nixon, according to Matt LaFleur, is going to get the first dibs at that nickel spot. Now, if anybody's wondering, okay, well, what about Eric Stokes? Remember, he suffered that foot injury last year. And kind of an interesting comment, too. It sounds like LaFleur said he's hoping to get him back as soon as possible. Which might mean, I mean, I hate to be kind of a Debbie Downer, but we're in March, going to be April this weekend, and kind of sounds like they don't know exactly when they're going to get Eric Stokes back. But there's a possibility he might not be ready for the opener after that significant foot ankle injury last year. So yeah, I mean that you got to keep Rasul Douglas out there on the outside. Then how about Darnell Savage? Could he be part of the nickel role? We've been hearing about Darnell Savage. Is his best spot, the nickel spot. Sounds like that Matt LaFleur thinks that Darnell Savage's best spot is still safety. Now again, I'm just telling you what Matt LaFleur thinks and his thoughts out there. So expect Darnell Savage to be back there at the safety spot. So we got Rasul Douglas staying on the outside. Keyshawn Nixon going to be getting the first crack at playing the nickel role. Darnell back there in the safety spot. And then apparently Matt LaFleur said on Keyshawn Nixon, if he can handle it, I've got no problem putting him in there on offense. But we got to take care of that nickel spot first, though. Remember last year, Keyshawn Nixon, I don't know if he was like serious or kind of jokingly, playfully, kind of wanting to get in on some of the offensive action, getting some plays involved in there. We know he's pretty electric with the ball in his hands on kick returns and such. Offensively, we talked a little bit about the quarterback and Jordan Love and such. Matt LaFleur on Romeo Dobbs, saying that I want to temper this comparison. But he's got some Devontae Adams-like movement skills. Now he's got to learn how to use it and when to harness it. There isn't a route he can't run. A lot of praise for the second-year wide receiver. But he also admitted, too, that wide receiver room, he wants a veteran in there. Which we know Goody had already said, a while back, too. So I would expect at some point, whether it's going to be a free agent or maybe a trade acquisition, but expect the Packers at some point to add a veteran wide receiver. But going back to Matt LaFleur, he was trying to tamper down the expectations for Jordan Love. Again, the quote that we said earlier, I think we're fooling ourselves if we think he's going to go out there and perform to a level of the likes of Aaron Rodgers. This guy is a generational, once-in-a-lifetime talent, and I don't think he started in that role. It was a progression. And he's right. I think, we can't really have the MVP expectations for Jordan Love. We're hoping that that's the case. We should, though, I will say, have an expectation that he is a quality starting quarterback in the NFL. I mean, that's the spot he's in right now. That's the reason the Packers drafted him, moved up in the first round to draft him. We should have that expectation, though, I would argue, that he is a starting quarterback in this league. You don't trade up in the first round and acquire him if you don't think he can be a quality starter. Now, to compare him to an Aaron Rodgers, yeah, that's not fair to a guy like Jordan Love. But I think it's rightfully fair to put out the expectation that Jordan Love is going to be a quality starter, quality starting quarterback in the NFL. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. To have the expectations of a Patrick Mahomes or an MVP, okay, yeah, not initially. Let's see how it rolls. But there's nothing wrong to say that we need to, we're going to have that expectation that he can win ball games as a starting quarterback. There's nothing wrong with that one. In fact, that should be the expectation, in my opinion. That should absolutely be the expectation for Jordan Love in the next couple of years. Give him a little bit of a grace year-ish. I don't want to see a Jordan Love, throw 10 touchdown passes and 20 picks or whatever that line would be. But that expectation should be that he's a quality starting quarterback. You already put that on him. It's not from a fan base. Packers already put that on him by trading up in the first round to get him. You do that, you put that expectation on the guy, on the player himself, that he has got to be, or that he will be, a high-quality starting quarterback. Maybe not one of the best of all time, but that he can win some ball games for you. But I think a lot of this pressure now has to go on the shoulders of Matt LaFleur. And this is where I will give a little bit of credit to Mike McCarthy. Back in 08, 09, first couple of years of Rodgers' career. He comes in as coach. Favre's already established. He's a vet, Grizzly vet, right? Kind of doing his thing, that sort of thing. Then you got Rodgers coming in. Don't know what to expect from him. He looked not great in the preseason action the couple years leading up to it. Had that Cowboys game. It's like, okay, maybe some glimpses. Maybe, everybody's kind of using the Jordan Love Eagles game as a similar experience. Although I will argue Rodgers had more playing time in that Cowboys game. But this is where I want to see how good is Matt LaFleur with now a quarterback that he really has to mold, have a big hand in molding himself. Like Matt LaFleur got in Green Bay, Rodgers was already Rodgers. McCarthy, when he got to Green Bay, Rodgers was heading into his second year, but he had a big hand in molding the quarterback and shaping him into the quarterback that he has become. Matt LaFleur has that same task. Can he do that? I mean, he's got a lot of experience in the pro and the collegiate game at working with quarterbacks. Mentioned he was Matt Ryan's quarterbacks coach when Matt Ryan won MVP a few years ago. You spent a lot of time, obviously, under the Shanahans and the Shanahan system. Was quarterbacks coach with Washington for a couple of years. Went to Notre Dame to be a quarterback coach for a year. He's been around a lot of different styles of quarterbacks. But now as head coach and essentially the offensive coordinator, because he's calling the plays here too, he has got to mold Jordan Love into this quality starting quarterback. So I think there's going to be a little bit more extra pressure, a little bit more on the shoulders of Matt LaFleur, and we're going to get these answers. We're going to get these answers. Is he a good head coach? Is he a good play caller? Can he put Jordan Love in a position to succeed? Can he put this offense in a position to succeed? Are we going to see a true offensive system that maybe he wants to bring in? What's it going to look like? I mean, because I look at the 49ers and the job that Kyle Shanahan has done over there. And looking at the different quarterbacks that he has had. You know, Jimmy Garoppolo going to the Super Bowl with him. Didn't really, get a full glimpse of Trey Lance, but now we're talking about Brock Purdy, who was the last pick in the draft. But how much of a difference would he have made if he played in that game against the Eagles? I still picked the Eagles, but probably would have been a lot closer. And now there's even some speculation. Maybe Sam Darnold starts for the Eagles next year at the beginning of the season, depending on Brock Purdy's recovery. But that's how, Kyle Shanahan knows quarterbacks. And he knows how to put them in a position to succeed. He knows how to build that offense, call those plays so that offense can succeed. 49ers have a fantastic defense, which helps them. And that's what puts a lot more pressure on Joe Barry and his defense to also step up their game. If they are a top 5 defense like they were supposed to be, air quotes, last year, that's going to help out tremendously for this team this year. But what the offense was able to do with like what Kyle Shanahan does, that's what I want to see like with Matt LaFleur in this offense now too. Kind of an unknown at this point. I don't know if we really know how good of a play caller Matt LaFleur. And I'm not trying to. I like Matt LaFleur. I like him a lot. But we don't have the Aaron Rodgers anymore to kind of masks some of the mistakes or kind of fill in some of the holes and such. We're going to know a lot of these answers. All right, let's I rambled on there a little too long. Got to take a quick break and then finish up the first hour. We'll be back in just a couple minutes. Spring turkey hunting season's right around the corner. Got my tag coming up here in a couple weeks or so, a few weeks, sometime in April. Like April, when is it? April. Yeah, I won't be here on the 21st. I'm going to be doing a little turkey hunting and such. So, but if you need any last minute gears, maybe you need to upgrade that shotgun, turkey shotgun or such, head on over to our good friends from Tilden Gun. Tilden Gun. Head on over there. Check out their new and used selection. So if you're looking for that new turkey shotgun for this upcoming turkey hunting season, which is starting here right around the corner, don't forget to head to our good friends over at Tilden Gun. Let's say good morning to Morgan this morning. Good morning.
You gonna get out and get a turkey?
I hope so.
I can tell you, if you
bought a
come to my
tag,
house,
so.
there's a big old gaggle flock, whatever you want to call it, of turkey that hang out
Gaggle of turkeys.
the same place every day and take their sweet time getting
Well, they're
across the
looking for
road.
food. They're scavenging.
I'm
right
telling
now.
you, they're going to be food pretty soon, but there's a
Well,
pretty good
you
sized
ever
tom
have,
there if you want it.
You ever have like smoked fresh turkey?
Oh, I have not, but I would love to try. You know what? I know some people that deep fry it.
Yeah.
Like that. That sounds awesome to me.
Yeah.
Have you done that?
I've not deep fried it. I've smoked mine and such, but
Yeah. My uncle or my brother-in-law got a
same thing as an uncle.
really good. My Siggy's uncle got a great turkey, and this is his signature move. Whenever he gets something like that, if it fits in the kitchen sink, that's where he leaves it. So my sister will walk in and be like, "I guess I'm plucking a turkey, huh? There you go. It's ready to go."
Nice.
So, have you ever watched the show Hot Ones? I was thinking of you the other day. Have you heard of Hot Ones?
No, I have not.
Okay, this is right up your alley. So, Hot Ones is a show. They have a host and all of that. Like, his name's Sean's great host. They bring on celebrities. I mean, everyone from like Jack Black to Halle Berry to just kind of everybody in between.
Mm-hmm.
And he has like a regular interview setup. He sits on one side of a table, they sit on the other, but in the middle of them are, I think, like maybe 6 to 8 bottles of increasingly hot sauce. So they start hot and then they just kind of go off the Scoville scale from there. So every time they kind of ask a question, start the natural conversation like you and I would chit chat, but they have to grab a wing, put a dab of sauce on, and then keep working their way up.
Okay, I've seen that on TikTok.
Okay, right.
Yep. Now I've seen. Okay. Yep. I didn't know the name of it, but
Yeah.
now that you're okay.
And it's weirdly addictive to watch. It sounds so stupid in premise, like when you try to tell somebody about it. Hey, they just sit around and eat hot sauce. But trying to keep yourself like in capacity and trying to talk and keep conversation going like a normal person when your mouth's on fire and your nose is bleeding, that gets tricky. So they have this one sauce called the bomb that's like throws everyone off. That's where it goes off the rails, and that's maybe 2 or 3 from the top tier where their Scovilles just go nuts.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something you would do? Because you're a hot wing guy.
No, I would not do that.
You wouldn't even try getting in there, trying to hold it together?
I got my base, or I got my max, and then no.
You're not interested in trying anything beyond that?
I don't
want to
be in pain. I don't want to be in pain.
Well, that's just it. That's the thing I don't understand. Like, I'm not a spice person anyway, but I don't get it.
I don't get hungover anymore because what's the point?
Yeah.
I don't want to feel miserable
It's the sign. That is the sign of adulthood, Casper. When you get to the point, because it used to not matter. You used to you would do the turnaround and you'd shake it off and you'd be fine by noon and ready to rally.
Yeah.
You're an adult when you're like, you know what? I'm done. No more. It's not worth it tomorrow.
I don't want to feel awful because it takes longer to feel better too.
When the repercussions act as a deterrent from the action, that is when you have hit adulthood. And that's how you feel about hot wings?
I do miss my go-to meal for whenever I was hungover was chicken strips.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know why. It was always chicken strips.
Oh, no. See, I'm going runny eggs and hash browns every day of the week.
I don't know why, but it was always chicken nuggets or chicken strips.
But no super wicked hot sauce.
No.
I thought the next time you give yourself a consideration.
I like a good buffalo sauce, but not something where I'm going to be in pain.
No, if your ears bleed, it's too hot. Yeah. You know who did really well though? This is what surprised me. Halle Berry. Of all people, right?
She is hot, so there you go.
She is pretty hot.
All right, second hour kicking off on this Making the Turn Wednesday. Appreciate you all tuning in, however, and wherever you may be checking in from on this March 29th. Coming up a little bit later on, about 10 minutes or so, we'll do a little sports vigilante. Then we got some stock reports coming at you at 8:05, and then another edition of Showdown coming up at about 8:25 or so. So we'll get you those 2 years in our third matchup in the second round coming up here shortly. Catching up on a couple of messages here. Good to hear from Mr. Plain T. Good morning, DK. After watching that Badger game last night, I almost had to call in sick for work today. Bottom line, they need to get more athletic, and I agree that Greg Gard is sitting squarely on top of that hot seat. He has next year to move things in the right direction, or I believe he will be gone. Packers absolutely need to be looking at bringing in a veteran quarterback. Have you heard of anyone that may be looking at, or of anyone that is even out there that could be a possibility? Well, if we're kind of looking at it right now, I know Bill Huber from SI.com covers the Packers. Had an article out the other day. I mean, if you wanted a Matt LaFleur connection, Matt Ryan is technically available, but I don't know if Matt Ryan would want to come in and be a backup there. We just mentioned he was the quarterback's coach for Matt when he won MVP. Otherwise, I mean, you've got, I believe, Teddy Bridgewater still out there. You got a guy like Mason Rudolph. I mean, Joe Flacco, if you really want an older veteran out there, Brian Hoyer. Otherwise, you got like Trevor Siemian, who's got a lot of starting experience. Remember, he was the guy that initially was the first guy to replace Peyton Manning in Denver over there. Brett Rippon, speaking of Denver, got some playing time last year under Nathaniel Hackett as head coach. John Wolford with the Rams over there, a little bit of experience with the McVay system and such. Could that be a possibility? Long time, guy that Chase Daniel, if they wanted to go that route. Blaine Gabbert. I mean, there's some veterans out there. I know, Matt LaFleur kind of mentioned about, and Brian Gutekunst mentioned both about a veteran quarterback, backup quarterback. I'll be curious to see what direction they go, because remember in 08, they didn't bring in a veteran to back up Aaron Rodgers. They drafted a second round guy in Brian Brom, and that was the whole Merrill Hodge. Brian Brom's going to be better than Aaron Rodgers ordeal. That didn't work out, but their backup ended up being their 7th round pick that year, which was Matt Flynn. So I don't know how that thing's going to work out here. So something to kind of keep an eye on. Let's do some sports nuggets of the day, brought to you by Ansay Associates. 1929, the first NHL Stanley Cup final between the two U.S.-based teams took place. Boston Bruins beat the New York Rangers to get their first Stanley Cup. It was 1987. Any wrestling fans out there that can remember 1987? I was only one, but obviously I've seen the clips. Hulk Hogan took 11 minutes and 43 seconds to pin Andre the Giant in front of 93,136 at WrestleMania 3. 93,000 fans at the Silverdome in Pontiac, Michigan. Anybody who's old enough listening, remember watching that? That's on YouTube all over the place. Let's go 1988. Tennessee won the women's college basketball championship over Louisiana. Tennessee has set an NCAA record with a regular season record of 39-0. Let's go. Wayne Gretzky in 1999 scored his 1,072nd professional goal, passing Gordie Howe, who had scored 1,071. 2004, the NHL approved the sale of the Atlanta Thrashers from Time Warner. And 2013, Jaromir Jagr with the Dallas Stars, what team hasn't he played on, scored his 1,000th assist in a game against the Minnesota Wild. He was the 12th player to reach 1,000 points and the first non-Canadian NHL player to reach that mark.
I think the Wild and the Kraken are the only two teams he has not yet played for.
There's still time.
I mean, until he's dead, a 74-year-old Seattle Kraken third liner, Jaromir Jagr.
I mean, he's still playing in overseas, isn't he?
Yeah. You know what you should do? Get like a Jaromir Jagr Kraken jersey.
He's he's a Czech professional hockey right winger for and owner of the whatever of the Czech Straliga.
Something like that.
Yeah. So yeah, he's still playing. Owner player. So kudos to him. I used his character a lot in my Sega games. So.
Yeah.
NHL 95 and 94, baby.
The classic.
Those are just some of your sports nuggets of the day. Again, brought to you by our good friends from and say associates. Major League Baseball spring training's in the books now. We've got opening day starting tomorrow. Does it feel like opening day is right around the corner for you, Lucas? Are you kind of in the baseball mood yet?
I very much am.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to this. I might actually try to watch the anything nationally televised tomorrow, because I want to see what the game looks like with the pitch clock. And I'm glad, actually, for comparison's sake, that I got to see a World Baseball Classic game, old style, shifts, no pitch clock, in the very recent past. It's still a pretty fresh memory from like a week and a half ago. And then watch tomorrow. I think ESPN's got a game tomorrow night. I can't remember exactly the matchup.
Yeah, they got isn't it the Giants Astros tomorrow night?
That's it.
Yeah.
And watch part of that and see if I'm picking up on the flow of that. And of course, there'll be plenty of other games, and don't base it on the first game for two teams in a season. Yeah, I'm genuinely excited for this baseball season, and I am really excited for the possibility that these games are going to look and feel more exciting. And I know entertaining is a subjective term, but that's something I've wanted, and I'm going to get to see that. Well, hopefully it works out. So yeah, I'm excited for this.
What are your expectations for your Twinnies this year?
You ready for a bold prediction?
Oh boy, do you have them going to the World Series?
I mean, I might as well start picking like 16 seeds to win the national championship. I'm not going to be that crazy. But the Twins are going to win a playoff game.
Wow.
I know.
Wait. Just time out. A game and not a series, right?
A game.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure.
They may lose 2 games to 1. The Twins will win a playoff game.
All right.
I will be on Nicollet Avenue, downtown Minneapolis, ticker tape parade, dodging buses. I am going to be celebrating the living daylights out of that.
The question is, will it actually be a game against your Yankees, though?
It doesn't matter at this point. if they beat...
I feel like if you won a game against the Yankees in the playoffs, though, that would count for more celebration.
The funny thing is, there might actually be like an unofficial ticker tape parade in downtown Minneapolis if they beat the Yankees in the series.
Yeah.
It could be that first round 2-1 matchup. Or not, the best of 3 is what I mean.
Yeah.
It could be that, but there are probably a lot of Twins fans that would treat that as, it's not the World Series, obviously. I'd be kind of embarrassed for Twins fandom if anyone starts to put that on a par with 91 and 87, because come on. But it would rank up there, which really says more about the Twins' recent history than anything. But it would be a big deal. But yeah, I have the Twins. I don't know if you've done like predictions for the season.
I was going to ask you for your predictions, because I'm going to do mine tomorrow.
Okay.
For actually opening day. And
give you a pretty quick rundown. Well, American League, and this could actually lead to a Twins-Yankees first-round matchup. I do have Twins winning the Central. It's not a comfortable pick. I could see Cleveland winning it as well. Toronto I have in the East, because the Yankee injuries, I think, are going to knock enough wins off of them. Plus, the Blue Jays have the more balanced lineup. Shout out to Alden Varsho. We're going to see more of him there. The fences are, I think, moved a little bit in to the former Sky Dome. They've renovated the outfield. So I think they're going to they're going to have a lot of offense.
They're actually going to live up to the expectations they had last year?
I think so. The biggest problem was that lack of a balance. What was there? All lefties or something like that? Yeah, you can't succeed long-term that way. So I think the Blue Jays, Twins, Astros win. I think your wild cards are the Yankees, Rays, and probably the Mariners. And there'll be some teams that are going to be very close. But I do have... Are you ready for another Yankees-Astros League Championship Series?
Weird.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
But I have the Yankees winning as a wild card. I think they'll be good enough by then. National League, I've got the Braves, Cardinals, and the Padres as their division winners. The Mets, Phillies, and the Dodgers as your playoff teams. I think the Brewers will be in play. They're probably going to be about as close as any team. And remember, there's going to be some surprise team, and I'm not going to dare pick who it is, but there's going to be some team, American League or National League, that's going to be really good out of the gates, like, whoa, wow. And then comes July, and oh my gosh, this team's really going to make a playoff push. I don't know. Diamondbacks could be that team, but I don't dare pick. But I got the Braves beating the Padres in the LCS, and I have your 2023 World Series champion Atlanta Braves over the Yankees in the World Series. Yankees.
All right. A
Braves,
battle
Yankees.
of, like, that's like a 90s throwback there.
It is 96, 90, 99, baby. Yep.
There's going to be a lot of John Smoltz and Tom Glavine and
Yep.
Greg Maddux ceremonial first pitches in that series. They might as well bring back, like, Wells. Yeah, that's what
Bernie Williams.
Bernie Williams.
Actually, I heard Roger Clemens was on the Baseball Tonight podcast. I wonder if he starts to eke his way back into the world of. I mean, if he's getting an extended interview on ESPN to talk about baseball, that's one of those that makes you go. That's a thing that makes you go, a little bit. Not to the point of like he's getting into the Hall of Fame, but just kind of normalizing him back more into baseball. But yeah, I'm thinking for the Brewers, I know there are teams that are plenty competitive in July and they still give up on the season. For example, the Brewers last year. But I think they're going to have to be a sub 500 team to deal Corbin Burns at the deadline. If they're competing with the Cardinals, and the Cardinals really should win the division, outside of their pitching, which, I mean, they got injury issues there and some consistency
and
issues.
how much does Wainwright have left in the tank as a 41-year-old?
And I don't know. That's the biggest problem for the Cardinals. But man, their offense, their fielding looks really, really good, and they got a ton of depth. They can trade for pitchers.
Well, it should be pretty darn good with the Cardinals' offensive lineup, and if the Brewers' starting pitcher can, live up to the expectations we have for them. So.
And so this is, I think the biggest, like my biggest question mark for the season is Freddie Peralta. Can the Brewers get back to the 2021 three-headed monster? If they can win the division. They don't have to have a ton of things break right. If that's not the case, if he's average, Brewers are slumping a little bit. I think offensively, remember they were sneaky good last year. As much as the Brewers have this rep of being a bad offensive team, they're actually, they were like 10th in runs scored or 10th.
Yeah, you look at the advanced analytics and stats. There's some categories that they were, top 10 and some stuff on there too.
And I think they'll be probably a little better this year, especially with the Contreras signing.
Well, and I think a lot of people are like wondering with like Rowdy Tellez being a big one for the banning of the shift.
Yeah,
that sort of thing.
That should help. So if the Brewers are competing with the Cardinals, I mean, maybe they still get rid of Burns if they can sell high, get one motherload of a return. Other than that,
yeah, they'd have to be way out of it if they're going to be selling, I think, at the deadline for like Corbin Burns and that.
Plus, I don't know how much of this makes a difference, but I do wonder if the front offices remembers the accounts that we have heard of how the Brewer players reacted to the front office move of getting rid of Josh Hader. And if they're concerned that they become a team that has a rep for, we're just going to give up on players, and then that starts to become like solidified within the roster team. Future free agents are just like, nope, I'm gone. They start to spread word around. Other free agents like, I'm not going to go there. And I have to think there's a little bit of that. I mean, you still are going to try to get the best deal possible for Corbin Burns, but that might cause them to hesitate a little bit and not go, wow, we don't want our players to revolt. That's what you're most concerned about. Not the fans, it's the players. If you're the GM, you are concerned about that. And the Brewers are a little perilous in that spot.
All right. Reminder, opening day, we're going to be hanging out a little bit at Hy-Vee, and Hy-Vee is going to be doing some specials yesterday too in honor of opening day, and it's going to be helping out Backyard Dreams. So tomorrow, 1 p.m. to 4 p.m., $2 hot dogs, chips, and pop, $5 brats, chips, and pop, $2 from every meal will be sold. $2 from every meal sold will be donated to Backyard Dreams.
Well, so, I'm there.
Yeah, that's not a bad deal right there.
It is that's a solid one.
So, looking for a little lunch tomorrow, you know where to go. So, and I know they've got the brats over there now too from like Star Market. So,
very nice.
Double whammy over there. So, yeah, $2. I mean, $2 hot dog, chips, pop, $5 brat, chips, pop, $2 of every meal going to help Backyard Dreams. So
very cool.
All right, let's take a quick break, and we're gonna do a little sports vigilante. And I'll just tell you, in case you missed it in the first hour, it deals with one Giannis. That's your tease there. So
okay,
little Giannis Antetokounmpo. So we'll take a quick break, and then sports vigilante time. Talking NBA, talking Giannis. What could it be? You'll find out. Regular season in the NBA starting to wrap up here. Bucks, they're taking on the Indiana Pacers tonight, 6 p.m. tip-off. You can catch that game right here at 105.1 FM and 790 AM before tomorrow's matchup with the Boston Celtics. The Wizards helping out the Bucks a little bit last night by taking down the Celtics. So Bucks now up 2.5 in the Eastern Conference standings here. Speaking of the Bucks, it is the topic of our sports vigilante for this morning, and a lot of the national shows out there, if you will. Big topic has been the NBA MVP. I want to play this clip. This is from when Ray Allen was on the Dan Patrick Show the other day, and Dan Patrick asked Ray Allen if he had an MVP vote, who would he vote for? Here was Ray Allen's response and reasoning.
And Ray Allen.
All right, so that's just a little small clip of here. So my sports vigilante, you could call me a homer or not here, Lucas, but and this was I'm not trying to pick on Dan Patrick, Ray Allen, or anything like that. This has been a topic all across national shows and such. But when you hear the topic about MVP, it's centered on the Joker to win it for a third straight year, and Joel Embiid has gotten hot as of late right now. You look at like NBA player efficiency ratings, he's up there with the Joker. Joker's number 1, Joel Embiid's number 2. Ray Allen's definition of an MVP, which is something that, I would tend to agree with, but I think you can say that for a lot of different players out there too. But my sports vigilante that I want to know is, why is Giannis's name not getting mentioned as much as these other players right now?
I think to a degree there is the voter fatigue.
And that's what I want. Do we have Giannis fatigue?
I think, yeah, there's some of that. Now, thankfully, I don't think it's like a permanent thing, because if he doesn't finish in the top 2 this year, which I think is probably going to end up being the case, then next year it's the Giannis comeback. And so should we already pencil in Giannis as a top 2 MVP contender for the 2023-2024 season?
Right.
I mean, it's probably going to happen. I don't know if it'll be the same 3 players. At some point, someone else is going to start to work their way into this trio we've had for a while. But Giannis, I know there was a thing that was going on ESPN recently, and I didn't even read the article. It was like, is he having a down season? Well, I mean, by Giannis standards, I guess in terms of stats.
Well, he's actually averaging more points per game this year than at any point in his career.
With fewer games. And I think that might be part of the knock. He's played the fewest games of those 3. And the Bucks have still managed to thrive without Giannis.
He's also averaging fewer minutes per game too.
Yeah. So I think the analytics really help Jokic. Embiid we could keep throwing around unicorn because these are unique players, but that's definitely happening in Philadelphia.
Does it help the other guys' case and hurt Giannis the fact that when Giannis was missing some time, Drew Holiday was having some game, and he mentioned, Middleton's not an all-star this year, and he hasn't been an all-star this year. He's finally getting back up to those minutes and being a starter. Drew Holiday was an all-star this year and finally getting that recognition. But I feel like almost what hurt Giannis's case is the fact that when Giannis was out for a stretch, Drew Holiday had a couple games where he just went off and carried the team on his back, essentially.
That will always hurt a prospective MVP. If you go away and your team keeps winning, by definition, you are not as valuable as one would have thought. As simple as that. Giannis evidently is not as valuable to the Bucks as Jokic is to the Nuggets. I actually think Dan Patrick's point is probably the most accurate. You take Jokic off the Nuggets.
Then the Nuggets are nothing.
Right. He really is the most valuable player there. I think the Sixers can stay more afloat without Embiid. We've seen that certain times this year. I know there was a big kerfuffle over the whole sitting Embiid thing during what should have been the big MVP matchup. Hey, load management. But I don't know. Like, is that really going to make a difference in the MVP race? No. I mean, Embiid's going to make it. Embiid's still doing a lot that's really that's going to potentially get him the MVP. I don't think he ultimately gets it. But I honestly, I don't think I can vigilante Giannis back into the discussion.
I think Giannis should be in the discussion. He should be more. I'm not saying he should be MVP, but he should be more involved in the conversation that he is.
I misspoke now that I think about it. He's not going to be the likely winner. He should be in the discussion. I think Giannis in the MVP discussion is getting a little close, and this might go back to the fatigue thing of, well, Shohei Ohtani really should be the MVP for like the next 8 years of baseball because of what he does, because his value is ridiculously above everyone else. So what, do you just like not even bother with MVP there? It's a little different with Giannis because you have other players you can make closer cases. It's not like he's all-world defense, all-world offense, and coaching the Bucks too. Like that would be Ohtani level stuff.
Yeah, and I'm going back to kind of like Ray Allen's thing where he was making, the point of, most wins and all that. I'm like, but the team with the most wins in the NBA right now is currently the Milwaukee Bucks.
Right. That was kind of funny that they did that and then just kind of skated right by the Bucks.
Right. Right, exactly. And I don't necessarily, I don't know where you're on this, the whole small market thing. I'm like, Denver, isn't it, the same thing. So I don't necessarily say, well, it's small market. Well, if that was the case, Giannis wouldn't have won 2 in a row to begin with. So
the Nuggets are not a sexy team either.
No. Yeah, when you think of the Western Conference, the Nuggets are not one of the first teams that come out of people's mouths.
Right.
It's still the Lakers or Clippers or even the Suns with KD or
Warriors.
Something like that.
It's all of those teams. It's definitely not the Nuggets. The Nuggets are a big deal right now because of Nikola Jokic. If he's not there, we're not talking about the Nuggets as sports media culture. The best I can say is do
we really have Giannis fatigue already though? Like, is that the case for people outside of Bucks fandom? Do they have Giannis
I think
fatigue?
so, but I think that there's going to be Jokic fatigue kicking in pretty soon. I think there'll be Embiid fatigue.
There would, but I wonder if Jokic fatigue isn't kicked in because he doesn't have that running mate.
Well, that's the thing. If this were a one-person show for Giannis, if Middleton and Drew were not there and they were on the verge of, or they're pacing for like 65 wins, Giannis would be in the discussion. Okay, so maybe this is what we need to do. Get rid of Middleton and Drew and see if Giannis can pull it off.
This is my next thing now. So, okay, great. Giannis fatigue and such. He's not going to win an MVP. But who do you trust more to win an NBA championship right now? Bucks or Nuggets?
Trust the Bucks.
Which is more important for Giannis at this point?
Winning the championship. He doesn't. I mean, you never know exactly what they think. He probably cares little about winning an MVP. He'd rather, you start to add up, like, I can't name how many MVPs for a lot of players outside of Kobe just because of the lack. But I can name championships for a lot of players.
Mhm.
That stands out to me. I think that stands out to you. I think that stands out to most people because those are the easy ones to remember. The only MVP races we really, all time from what at least in my sports fandom, so we're going back to the mid 80s. I don't even really remember too many MVP discussions back then. I've read about them, but I don't remember them in real time. The ones I remember to this day are the Malone Jordan one, and that's really because of the big banners that were being put up and
Well, then it got rehashed with The Last Dance.
right.
You know,
Right. But that was a thing.
But I remember watching as a kid. I remember stupid stuff as a kid. I remember watching NBA and NBC Malone MVP, and I'm thinking, wow, okay, why would Jordan should have been, and I didn't like Jordan as a kid. So for me to say it shouldn't have been, I was probably happy it was Malone that it wasn't Jordan, But I remember watching that, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's interesting, sort of thing.
The Barkley one in '93 too. Speaking of Jordan related ones,
Yep.
The Nash. This is when we really started to get into the whole, well, let's give him the MVP because we really should have the other year, and he's not that great. But now
I'm a Shaq fan, so that should have been Shaq.
Yeah.
Just saying.
And then the Westbrook Harden debate, which was, that was kind of a fun one that year.
The day Hudson was born.
Oh my gosh, that's right.
I remember watching that when Hudson was getting born. It was on the background.
It was a big. That was a big. Gosh, that spring we were debating that a lot.
Yeah.
Not necessarily we did talk about it on the show, but that was a lot. I mean, talk about a solid debate. It at least didn't start to I know that. I'm glad that the MVP debate this year, and maybe it'll come back, the whole Kendrick Perkins thing, it looked like it was going to get derailed and this was going to suck to talk about this. And thankfully, I think we pulled it back on the rails and are now talking more about the quality of the players and the teams and not the voters and their proclivities, shall we say. So all of that being said, I don't know that it matters all that much.
I feel
Giannis,
like the MVP award is such a weird debate to have because you can look at it and be like, okay, yeah, Kareem's got the most with 6. Makes sense. Kareem, right? Bill Russell, Jordan have 5. Okay, makes sense. But then there's also maybe more recently, it's like, oh, how did Kobe only have 1 MVP in his career? How did Shaq only have 1 MVP in his career? It's such a weird thing because Shaq and Kobe are considered some of the top 10, for some people, top 10 players of all time, yet they only have 1 MVP. And a guy like, and this isn't a knock on him, but Steve Nash has more MVPs than Shaq and Kobe.
And the thing is with a lot of this is you can go year by year. This is kind of like the Russell Wilson situation, though I think it's more explainable in Wilson's case. You can go year by year and go, well, why didn't they win it? Well, okay, in this given year, look at who was playing, blah, 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 blah. Makes sense. Following year, makes sense. Following year, it makes sense. The Nash-Kobe thing, there was one year it didn't make sense. But I think that's also because I think they got screwed up and Nash should have won it in a year that Nash didn't. And so, like I said, it was kind of it's like with the Grammys, when they give Album of the Year to a legacy artist, and it becomes like a make good, and that's how you end up with like Beck winning Album of the Year and Kendrick Lamar and Beyonce don't because, well, let's give it to Beck. He's been around for 20 years and we didn't like him when he came up with Loser, but now we do. So that's kind of what happens with the MVP voting. And that does lead me to wonder if Embiid doesn't win it this year, and this is where the vigilante thing could really come into play, store this away for next year. Giannis is having a great year next year, and Embiid is having comparable season next year. Is Embiid the hands down favorite because
he hasn't won it yet?
He's due.
Yeah.
And we're going to have that debate again. Are you ready for it? Because I'm not saying it definitely will happen. I mean, maybe Embiid has a genuine off year. Giannis somehow doesn't have a good year. There's some other player that rises up, then maybe Jason Tatum breaks into that like solid MVP discussion, someone like that. But I think Giannis is going to benefit from or be hurt by the due factor. He's either going to get it because he will be out of the discussion for a little bit, and he's so good and he's so likable too. That's the thing.
Right.
Embiid rubs some people the wrong way. And he's not a bad guy. It's just he's got enough of an attitude that can hurt you some.
Should MVP awards factor in the postseason?
I just saw, I don't know if you just saw the tweet from Lisa Byington responding,
no.
like literally like 6 minutes ago, was responding to Marcus Johnson about, I mean, I don't think it's like smack, but it was about like, because Marcus Johnson tweeted a couple hours ago, I will defer my opinion until after the NBA Finals. I'll be able to evaluate Giannis and others in consideration on their total body of work for the entire season. Doesn't make sense to me to say a player is best until I watch him in the playoffs when it matters most. Then Lisa Byington responded, then they should also count games and stats. And I mean, of course, they're both on Giannis's side, but
right.
that does raise that point of should it count? Should what really matters count? But then we're changing the historic standard. And I hate to do the whole, well, this is how we've always done it, so this is how we always should. That's not necessarily right. But we are changing the standard pretty dramatically compared to history. Because then you kind of have to retroactively look at a lot of these players and go, well, how did they do in the playoffs?
Well, I mean, you could say that, though, for a lot of other statistics and stats out there.
Yep, you can. So, I mean, it's the precedent of it. But if we don't care about the precedent, then yeah, you probably should count the postseason. There are some, like Giannis in 2021. Now, he won the MVP that year. Right? I'm trying to do
no, Jokic won 2020, 2021.
Oh, that's right, because this would be the third straight. Yep, so
Yep.
that was 2020. But Giannis in the postseason in 2021, I think that would have swung it to Giannis, especially in the NBA Finals. That was one of the greatest performances of this century. I don't want to say all time, but this century? Surely, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that as a Wisconsinite. I think unequivocally, he was doing crazy stuff in the 21 Finals, which probably would have then gotten him MVP, and that race was close enough. That would have
I mean, to cap it off with that 50-point performance, hell yeah. And then you factor in the whole knee issue part of it, too. That probably factors into some people, voters on there.
So the best thing I can say is don't knock Giannis out of the discussion until he's having a legit mediocre season. I don't want to say a bad season, because Giannis is not going to have a bad season until he's like on the verge of retirement, and that's presuming he doesn't decide he wants to retire early.
I got a couple trivia questions here for you.
Yeah.
Test your history. So Jokic could potentially win 3 in a row, which I remember we had this discussion at the beginning of the year, and I didn't know that was I didn't think that was going to happen. I thought they would get fatigued there, but it might not actually. So last time a player won 3 MVP awards in a row.
Ooh.
It is a name, obviously, because the guy's got 3, at least 3, so you would know you've heard of this player.
Kareem?
No.
Am I going too far back?
Kinda.
Okay.
Not far back. Not too far off, but.
Magic?
No. Close.
Jordan?
No.
Bird?
Yes, Bird.
Okay.
83, 84, 84, 85, 85, 86.
That makes sense.
Johnson won it a couple times back to back, and obviously Jordan did too. So yeah, it'd be the last time was Bird to win 3 in a row. The team that has the most MVPs in history. Don't think too hard.
It should be the Lakers.
No, they're second.
Celtics?
Celtics were 1.
Okay, I'm blanking on the 60s.
Yeah, 10. So they got 10. Then it's the Lakers second with 8. Can you name the next 3 teams?
Oh, boy. Is this one of these where it drops off precipitously?
Not really, because it's 10, 8, 6, 6, 5.
Bulls, I would think, would be one of them.
Yep.
Okay. Warriors?
No. Close-ish.
Are we counting like Wilt?
Yes.
Okay.
So when I use that as a hint, close-ish if you're counting Wilt.
Okay. Because I already said the Lakers. If
So
we're talking,
think of the city.
I was thinking geographically.
Yeah, think of the city.
Well, that would have to be the 76ers.
Yes. So Bulls and 76ers have 6.
Because we forget about that Moses Malone MVP way back in the day.
Well, then Allen Iverson's got one.
Hey, see, Embiid could knock that up a little bit.
He could, then he could break the tie with the Bulls. And then,
oh boy, does this involve LeBron?
No.
Okay.
LeBron, I don't. Did he? No, he didn't win one with the Lakers. So no.
I was gonna say, is this like the Heat or the Cavaliers?
No.
The Knicks.
It might surprise you.
Okay, so not the Knicks. The Spurs.
No.
Jazz.
No.
Oh boy, not the Bucks.
It is the Bucks.
What? I suppose, yeah.
3 for Kareem and 2 for Giannis.
Oh, and not Oscar Robert. Well, I know that was a short time that he was in Milwaukee, but okay, yeah, I guess that does make sense.
Mm-hmm.
So the Bucks or the Sixers are about to make a pretty big move here.
Yeah,
presuming it's not Jokic.
Yeah,
but if Jokic wins, they're already up to 3 now. Alex English ever win, or is it?
Nope. Denver is. I'm just going to double check here a little bit. So Denver's got 2. So yeah, it's just Jokic. So
okay.
This is interesting on this list though too. So they got Philadelphia 76ers as 6. So the first one coming in 66. But then they've got Philadelphia / Golden State Warriors 1960, 2015, 2016.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah, the old Philly Warriors and then the Syracuse Nats who became the Philadelphia 76ers. Okay.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah, Bucks are towards the top there.
Because
so they'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th. Yeah, 5th.
So Kareem won more MVPs, and again, I could just Wikipedia this. So Kareem won more MVPs with the Bucks than the Lakers.
Well, no, 3 and 3.
Oh, okay. Still tied.
Yep.
So it's not more. Okay.
Yep, 3 and 3.
Well, I will say, okay, I'll ready for another bold prediction. Embiid or Giannis will be next year's MVP. I'm guessing Jokic is going to win it this year. I know there's a lot of Embiid push, but Jokic's his stats, his style, and how quickly the Nuggets can fall off without him will get him the MVP this year. Then, as much as there's going to be a little bit of a, could he do it 4 in a row? I think the fatigue, the combination of Jokic fatigue, getting Giannis into the discussion, finally getting Embiid that MVP, which that's going to probably be the overriding storyline, provided Embiid doesn't get like injured or has a down season. And of course, the wild card of who's that other player that's at some point going to play their way into the discussion. Does Ja get his life?
I was going to say, does Ja Morant's stock go down a little bit because of his off the court stuff now? Does that factor in at all?
Well, I actually think the bigger factor is that the Grizzlies have been able to thrive without him.
I was going to say they went on that winning streak too. So that's the Ewing effect again.
It kind of is. There's not a history of you need Ja Morant for the Grizzlies to succeed. So I think it's going to be a 2-player race next year. And after that, who knows? You can start to bounce around. Like if Kevin Durant has a really good season for Phoenix next year, he will be in the discussion.
Well, the one name too we're not mentioning in this whole thing that puts up a lot of stats is Luka.
If the Mavericks can do something,
right? That's the thing. Yeah.
And
maybe Luka's in the Giannis category. Get Jason Kidd out of there.
Oh gosh, Jason Kidd is screwing up another player's development. But here's the thing: Luka is talk about maybe rubbing voters the wrong way. Luka's got a way bigger issue with that than Embiid would. If anyone says, well, Embiid, really? I mean, because he does stuff on social media and Luka Doncic is becoming probably, I'd say he's fast on his way to becoming the least liked player in the league for someone who is legit talented. I'm not talking Dylan Brooks here.
Yeah.
I mean, someone who's a star who's becoming unlikable.
Who's the last star that was unlikable?
Oh boy. I want to say Rodman. It probably was. I mean,
do we factor in Draymond Green as a star?
Yeah.
I mean, the dude literally punched his teammate this year. So, I mean, laid him out.
But has Draymond ever been MVP level?
No.
Have you ever thought
but Dennis Rodman has never been MVP level.
No, but everyone knew who Dennis Rodman was. But that's also because he played in pop culture world, too.
Right.
Man, well, this does make you think retroactively, which players would have been unlikable in the modern era. Larry Bird probably would have been way more unlikable if he plays today.
And everybody just thinks he's cool because of what he did.
Well, the shooting left-handed for a game because he felt like it.
I mean, look at him. Does anybody think that would be the world's best trash talker? Look at Larry Bird with that stash and that fro and think Larry Bird is a jerk. Well, you probably think he's a jerk, but I mean,
he does. He does look like that guy from high school in 1983. You're just like, oh no, he's probably driving a Trans Am. He's blaring Quiet Riot or something like that. You're just like, I don't want to have anything to do with this guy. But today, Jordan and Bird in this era with their trash talking and the texts that they probably would be racking up.
I wish Larry
Oh,
Bird could have a Twitter account from back then.
wow.
Thing is, I don't know if he'd actually have one. I don't see it. I see him as the quiet trash
Okay,
talker.
well, think of it this way. Luka Doncic in the mid 1980s, is he getting as many technical fouls? Or is he Larry Bird back then?
That's a good point.
I mean, again,
Yeah.
Jordan, Bird, they got away with doing a lot of stuff that would not fly today. I'm not saying bad stuff, but the stuff that gets called out, becomes controversial, makes you an quote unquote unlikable player.
Well, I mean, Magic might have been the same way too.
He might have,
off
but
the court, you know.
Yeah, there's that. But man,
chicken. Wilt Chamberlain too. Yeah,
there's that. Yeah. Like the rep would have gone around, but on the other hand, he flashes the grin and
who's got more?
Bam.
Never mind. I was gonna make a bad joke about Wilt Chamberlain points and dates.
So yeah, that's the long way. All of this is a really long way of saying Luka could get in the discussion. I don't know, because he might be unlikable. Ja could get in the discussion, but I'm not sure just how valuable he is.
To sum it up, I think also shows a point of what's wrong with some of the MVP voting. Like, you got to take away some of that personal stuff. It should be about on the court stuff.
Absolutely.
I mean, we get it into Hall of Fame voting too, which, what was the, we talk about with the baseball player, just blanked out his name.
Jim Rice is the poster child for that. And thankfully that got corrected. But man, that stuck for a long time because, he didn't like the press. Really?
Yeah. Really quick, James, on our video stream have MVP awards trending more towards brand promotion versus who is MVP. Is it more about keeping the brand fresh versus honoring play?
That is a legitimately good question. Legitly, just made up a word.
Does Jokic have a brand though?
That's the thing. I don't think he does. Like I don't know what he sounds like.
Yeah.
Like I can picture Embiid talking. I can picture Giannis talking because I've seen them.
I honestly don't know this, but does the Joker even have his own shoe?
Not sure if he does.
Like, I know Giannis does.
Yeah, I don't think so. I guess, and that's a little refreshing that you can maybe not have a brand, a quote unquote brand in 2023 and still really thrive. So I guess the answer is no.
I guess, yeah. I just Googled it and wait, I don't know if this is his own name brand shoe though. The Nike Air Zoom GT jump basketball shoes are underappreciated, like Denver's Nikola Jokic. Okay, well, I don't know if this is actually his name though on it. I'll have to double check it. But we got to take a break because we went a little long.
So make sure Giannis is in the discussion this year, but focus more on next year.
All right, quick break, and we got stock reports coming up. And then I'll tell you what the 2 years are for our next edition of Showdown, which is coming up at about 8:25. Quick break. We'll be back in just a couple minutes. Really quick, we only got about a minute left, but to answer Mark your text, Dan, did I hear you say earlier that you were watching the NBA Awards show while your son was being born? While you were a sports nut and born during the NBA Awards, Hudson was destined to be a sports guy too. Well, maybe that's why Hudson's like a diehard basketball fan right now. He asks Alexa probably 7 times a day what the NBA scores are. But no, it was on. It was on. It was on in the background, and I may have glanced over a couple of times. I may have glanced over. But to be fair, Hudson was born at like 10:14 at night, so the awards were like, you
Hey,
know.
look, I was reading a story on college football changes like 5 minutes before my daughter was born because Dad was sitting out in the hall. I had nothing else. And I'm like, I'm going to read this now because I'll forget about it later. So
You were in the hall?
I was in the hall
Okay.
because I went and do the C-section.
Oh,
waiting,
you had C-section,
and then
yeah.
go in and do that. But in the
Yeah.
meantime, I'm like, what are they changing? Okay. Oh,
Yep.
time to go in. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, that was I was just kind of glancing over once in a while. So yep.
Sports.
Hey, it was a noise. I get distracted by noise. So Final hour tipping off right now. Good morning, everybody. Hopefully you're off to a fantastic start on this Wednesday morning. Coming up, we're going to do a little showdown as the second round continues for Showdown. The 2 years that we're going to be seeing who moves on to the third round is going to be 86, fantastic year, in 2000. So 86 and 2000. So
speaking of good years for the Celtics and Larry Bird.
Yep.
Wow.
So we'll get to that coming up here in about 10 or 15 minutes or so. If you want to check the Bracket Challenge leaderboard, the Hy-Vee Bracket Challenge leaderboard, had a couple people ask if you can do that. You absolutely can. Just go to our website. It's right on the homepage there and click on leaderboard. Have you checked it lately, Lucas?
I have not, because once it got super blown up, I'm like, why even bother? But
it might have to go to the second place person.
Really?
My 5-year-old's winning. And I'm not kidding. I'm not lying. People won't believe me. I did not pick a single game for him.
What were his picks again?
He, in his final, had Duke and UConn.
Okay. And the thing is, UConn's actually a pretty decent pick for this year. They were getting talked about early on, like, yeah, they could put together a run, and well, lo and behold.
Yeah, his final four was Texas, UConn, Arizona, and Duke. And he's got UConn and Duke.
Okay, well, he wasn't that far off.
And I was looking at the top 10, and I could be wrong, and I could have missed it, but he's pretty good right now, looking pretty good.
Wow.
So it might have to go to the second place winner.
Oh, my gosh.
For the Hy-Vee gift card and such.
Because employees and their families from Midwest Family Eau Claire are ineligible. Blah, 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 blah.
And I'm just saying, whoever does win, you're going to have to say, I lost to a 5-year-old. We all lost to a 5-year-old, so that's the only thing. So I literally did not help him pick a single game. He did it the night before. I said, hey, buddy, you want to do a bracket? He's like, yeah. So we went through it together, and that's how
really impressive. He's going to be able to claim his first victory at 5.
Yeah. Gosh. He'll have won a bracket challenge at 5 and already halfway to how many I've won total.
Wow. I think, how many have I won?
I've won 2.
I think I've won 2, because I always remember the 2001 was legendary. That's when I zagged. I thought Duke is not as much of a favorite as they should be, as everyone was saying. So I didn't pick Duke, and I won it before the Final Four that year, because that was kind of another crazy Final Four. The Dick Bennett year.
Yeah.
I think there was one. I'm trying to remember if I won one a few years ago. It may have been like a tourney pool here at the station. So I always got a little crazy because I used to run the tourney pool at the station. So I think I might have won my own. But
that's fine. I won one of my own before. So that was when North Carolina beat Illinois in 2005.
Oh, yeah. That was a fun one. But yeah, I don't quite remember. But I definitely did win 2000. So at least I got one. So Hudson is at minimum going to match me. And given his age, he's going to beat me in his life. If he's nailing this at age 5, which actually does kind of tie to a stock report thing, but I'll save that for later.
He's very ultra competitive, too. He's been asking every day who's winning.
Really?
I'm like, it hasn't changed. No games have played. So,
oh, boy.
Yeah. So.
Is he going to start doing like the women's tournament brackets, NIT brackets? I mean, and women's tournament, you can make a thing out of it. NIT gets a little dodgy.
He has an Alexa, which is the video one, so he can like video call his grandma and such. That's the whole purpose that we got that for him, so his grandma can talk to him through, but see him sort of thing. But he now, like I was mentioning earlier, he will ask every morning who won the NBA games. If it's football, he'll ask that. His memory, though, like they had an NCAA March Madness quiz on Alexa. He's got to memorize all the answers.
Really?
He went 6 for 6. I didn't know he had it memorized. And the other day I heard him, it was a question about, I think it might have been who has the most women's national championships. And before they gave the answers, he yelled UConn.
Wow.
I'm like, and I looked at him. I'm like, how the heck did you know that? And then there must have been a question about all the 1 seeds going to the Final Four. What year was that? And I heard him go 2008.
Wow.
I'm like, okay, dude.
Are you going to make sure he watches Caitlin Clark in the women's Final Four?
Yeah. She's one of the best players I've ever watched. She is special.
Yeah.
And we're going to see more of her, too. That's the thing.
Right?
I mean, come on now. With NIL and stuff, no rush to go to the WNBA.
Yeah,
No offense
which,
to WNBA, but
which
I
I
mean,
know that's starting to change a bit too. You can
Mhm.
start to make the leap, but oh my word, yeah, I was going to make sure she's well taken care of. I mean, that get a college player to break out like that, which I know you do have that sometimes in the women's game, and this is another thing that kind of ties back to what I'm going to say in the stock report. I'm almost giving my whole thing away right there, but yeah, is Hudson's favorite sport? I think you may have said it. Is he a basketball person above everything else right now?
right now, I don't know if it's kind of going in waves, but yes. And he actually asked me that question the other day too. So,
Am I a basketball person?
no, he actually had, like, what's my favorite?
Oh, okay.
And you break it down to like
Okay.
favorite to play or watch or that sort of thing. But
Mhm.
he definitely, I mean, when it's football season, he's all about asking the football stuff. He's getting close to baseball season now because he keeps talking about going to an express game.
Okay.
So, but right now I think it's like, and I was that same way as a kid. Depends on the season.
See, this gets back into that demographic question that I'm really piquing my curiosity on younger generation. I've said it before. NBA seems to be doing better than the NFL. I mean, I'm not sure if it's actually more popular than the NFL, but it might be.
Mhm.
But Hudson's a little on the young side to be making that declaration of, well, 5-year-old, well, there's your future. I don't know. I mean, again, when I was 5, it was certain things I couldn't stand when I was 5 years old that I love now, and vice versa. I mean, people change a lot. But I'll be especially as it gets a little older, keep track of what the other kids are interested in.
Mhm.
I'll be really interested to see if they're sticking with the NBA, if they're still like, it's not like they're not going to be interested in the NFL, but if it's more like okay, cool.
Well, so last night, right before he was getting ready for bed, he had the choice to either watch the Badger basketball game or Miami and Toronto was on.
Mhm.
He picked Miami Toronto
Okay.
because he knows players on those teams.
Okay. Well,
'Cause, yeah.
that's the narrative. That's entertainment.
And a lot of it too is because he collects sports cards.
Side note, assess the reaction to the Badgers last night. It seems like program in crisis was the Twitter impression.
And I kind of chuckle at it too because at the same time, wasn't that just reminiscent of the whole season?
So one of my friends, I think he's teaching right now, so he listens to the show, but I think he's teaching now, said the exact same thing. Last night was a microcosm.
Yeah. So it's like, and I get it. It was frustrating as all, get out because of the first half. And then it's like, oh, well, but wasn't that the perfect example of how everything has gone this year?
Yeah.
It wasn't anything new. It wasn't anything surprising.
I mean, people are like, we need to fire guard. This is terrible. I mean, okay. Also, this is the NIT. Do I really need to say that much more? I say this as a Gopher fan who was, I don't know how much I was really mocked for this, but all the times the Gophers would go when the NIT is like, Gophers, NIT.
To say that though, I was looking at the list of NIT champions last night.
It's not bad.
There's names on that thing.
Mhm.
Because I was like, I was watching the first half. I'm like, okay, what if Wisconsin does win? Because there's going to be the people. They'll be like, oh, we're putting up a banner for an NIT championship or something like that.
Mhm.
So I'm like, okay, I want to know, like, go through the list. Was there some big names, big teams on that list? And lo and behold, there was.
There are.
There actually was.
Yeah.
Going to UConn, Jim Calhoun won it against Gary Williams when he was at Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to go that way, you had I think Dean Smith was on here at one point for North Carolina.
Yeah, and again, for those that don't know, the NIT at one point actually was. If you go back to like the 50s and earlier, the NIT was the bigger national championship.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you go way back to like you look at Wikipedia and they mention how like in the teens and 20s when the Gophers and Badgers both had their national championships, but those are like those are assessments because there wasn't a tournament. But 30s, 40s, when the Badgers won the NCAA championship, for example, that wasn't as big of a deal. Like it counts now, but at the time it would have been bigger to win the NIT.
John Calipari won it in 2002 with Memphis.
And by that point, it was not as big of a deal, but you still had Coach, like you said, Coach Calhoun, et cetera, et cetera. You had 2 Patinos winning it for the Gophers. Yeah, sorry, I can go there because I'm a Gopher fan. But yeah, like but I'm looking at this reaction today going, maybe this is general Badger basketball frustration because it seems way out of whack compared to the significance of an NIT semifinal. Really? This sounds like this is going down as one of the all-time worst moments of recent Badger basketball history. And okay, sure, the whole, hey, let's all pass the ball around when we're supposed to make a basket. Okay, I get that. That's frustrating. But it's still the NIT. It's still not the NCAA tournament. Semifinal against North Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Like I mainly know North Texas for their nickname, and that Nora Jones went there for college. Like, okay, this is not Duke in 2015. Okay, folks,
Right.
Little less significant.
Yeah,
and I don't think Greg Gard is going to lose his job because of this. And there was a sentiment I saw on Twitter of like, is this the thing? No, it's not actually. No,
yeah.
Greg Gard will be back or not because of other reasons than the NIT semifinal.
Yeah, I think he'll be back. I would think that, and I would agree with this assessment that maybe it's under a little bit more of a microscope or spotlight this upcoming year, just to see, okay, is there going to be an improvement?
And that's fair.
Yep.
Yes,
I'd agree.
Great guy. You talked to him before. I got a chance to ask a question. I think it's safe to say we all have a good impression of Greg Gard, the human being, and he does know his basketball. Like he's a good coach. But is he the best coach for the Badgers, given where they can be? And that I don't know.
All right, you ready to do some stock reports? All right, let's do that quick. By the way, I will just mention Penny Hardaway did win an NIT championship in 2021. So,
see, even more reason to value those NIT.
You know what? I forgot. I didn't know that Reggie Miller was an MVP of the NIT NIT championship game.
Wow, I did
with
not
UCLA.
Know that. Okay, before we keep going on all things NIT, should the Badgers, had they won it all, should they have put an NIT banner up at the Kohl Center?
Why not? Go for it.
Okay.
Yeah,
I know you got to think about like
division championships and playoff appearance. Yeah, get that crap out of here.
But now division championship is a regular season thing, and the NIT is for those that didn't get in the NCAA tournament.
I think certain teams it's okay with division championships. Others, no. Packers can't afford to put up division championships on there. There's too many. Yeah, that bar's too high.
It's like the Patriots.
Yeah, Brewers, you can get away with it right now because you don't have a whole lot. So, but the whole playoff appearance thing, that's just ridiculous. Wasn't the Colts had an AFC Championship runner-up banner?
Yes. Which again, I think that's a significant accomplishment, but it's a very tough thing to brand.
Yeah. Hey, we made it to the AFC Championship, but we lost. So,
like. You can talk about it in context of like they made it like X number of years in a row. Cool. But we lost. No. All right, who's going first?
You can go first. Stock risers.
Stock riser. I've been going back and forth and I know I go to the Wolves a fair amount. They're actually doing pretty decent of late. And I'm going to say Jaden McDaniels. Defense. I know there was a little bit of mocking last summer when the Gobert trade happened and the Wolves were like, but we managed to keep Jaden McDaniels. Cool. Like you didn't keep anyone else. Like just you have anyone in your team plus Rudy Gobert and Cat and Anthony Edwards. Well, I see why. Offensively, he's been getting pretty good. Defensively, he's one of the best in the league. I don't think he's defensive player of the league yet. I don't know if he's ever going to quite get there, but he's a lockdown. What Ryan Russillo yesterday in his pod was calling him, like he said, like one of his nicknames is seatbelt. Like I think he locked on Steph the other night, just would not let him go. But now that his offensive game is coming around a little bit, he's like the fourth guy in that team. They've got a heck of a bench over there. I was going to say Karl Anthony Towns, but there's not enough of a sample size yet to know. I can tell you there are probably a lot of Wolves fans that are breathing a massive sigh of relief that he didn't come in and immediately just like have no idea where he is on the floor and screw up games like he's done in the past. We got a lot more to see. But McDaniels seems to be leveling up just a little bit at the right time. I don't know how much that means for the playoffs, but that's a name you're going to want to know in the playoffs. So even if it's one series, McDaniel's stock is definitely rising over in Minnesota.
Yeah, that's a good one. My stock rising. I'm going to go a little UConn in this one. I think they're going to win the championship now. I mean, they were a popular pick before the tournament began, but no offense to the rest of the Final Four in that. I think right now UConn looks just dominant throughout every part of their game too. Like they haven't had a close game yet so far. They're going to have another championship with a third head coach with Coach Hurley over there. Kevin Ollie won, against that Kentucky. Wisconsin should have been there. Anyways, and then Jim Calhoun, obviously, too. But right now, UConn, they're back, baby. Yeah. And I know everybody's talking about, like, this Final Four. Last year was, like, all blue bloods, right? It was North Carolina, even though it was an 8 seed. Duke, Villanova, Kansas.
Yeah.
And this year, everybody's like, oh, it stops. UConn is a program. They've got history. They've won national championships. But I get what people are kind of saying.
They're like that
time,
next tier down. Like I've always been a little hesitant when I talk about the Blue Bloods. If UConn is doing well, to be like there's none, because they do have a lot of success. I think it also, quote unquote, hurts them that they had success last decade when they were kind of an underrated team, like 2011, 2014, when they won the championship that year. I know Kemba was part of the reason for but still, like, it was like, oh, how did UConn get back up here?
And to piggyback off that too, I will say Stockriser is the Big East.
Yes.
With Rick Pitino coming back to St. John's and, Georgetown, a lot of optimism there. I would say the Big East Conference now.
Yeah.
You add in what Marquette did this year. So,
yeah.
Stockriser's Big East is back, baby.
Yeah, for sure. Jordan Hawkins, probably the guy you're going to want to most note playing for UConn. Stock forward, though, I will go back to the tournament, and this kind of goes back to the Blue Bloods versus who thing. And I'll say the NCAA tournament, but this is more of a long-term thing. I do think ratings are going to be probably noticeably down this year. Of course, good luck following up Duke, North Carolina from last year. Everything is down from that. That is the ultimate matchup, and now we've seen it. And then having a lot of non-blue bloods this year, 3 first-timers. They're all legit schools. It's not like this isn't like Fairleigh Dickinson made it. I mean, these are teams that were in the top 25.
This sounds like a Charles Dickinson novel every time you say Fairleigh Dickinson.
Fairleigh Dickinson. Yeah. As I was listening to the radio broadcast of the Elite Eight game with FAU, and they made a point to say towards the end of the game, like this is a top 25 team. This is a legit good team. They're not Cinderella. Okay, true.
Conference USA getting some love too when you got FAU and then obviously North Texas and UAB, and the NIT there too. So
yeah, so I mean that's all true. But I wonder, we haven't seen enough to know. But with to a degree NIL, but I'd also argue a lot of it's the transfer portal and how easy it is for players to move around and how you get almost, in some cases, almost entirely different rosters year by year. The parity is good and that more teams have a chance. I know there were one of the pods I was listening to the other day was talking about how the concern was, I think it might have been Andrew Brandt saying that the concern was that you'd end up with college basketball super teams. Everyone wants to play together. And the opposite is happening. But in terms of narrative, storyline, what we're familiar with, especially if you're a casual basketball fan, if you're going to have more teams that are making their first ever appearances and you're having 4, 5, 6 seeds coming through to the national, to the Final Four in the national championship, fewer teams that have like the obvious NBA prospects. So you don't necessarily know the backgrounds on these teams. Does that ultimately hurt ratings, streaming numbers going down the road because of so much player movement? You can't necessarily follow. This team has been together for like 3, like, of course they're one and dones, but they've had like this guy's been on the team for 3 years. Now they jump to another team. We don't know how they're all going to flow. And I think, and I actually want to be proved wrong on this, but I think you could see long-term, this movement continues. I don't think it's going to stop. You're going to see ratings start to go down a little bit for the Final Four. I still think, Mark, the first couple of days of the tournament, people don't care at that. They just want to see buzzer beaters.
Mm-hmm.
After that, though, as it goes through and you start to have like, who? I think that's going to start to hurt it a little bit. Thankfully for the NCAA, their TV contract's locked in for a good long while. But I don't know that it's going to look that great in the next few years. I don't know that we're going to see as many blue blood. I know last year was an aberration. I think this year, to a degree, is an aberration. But I think you're going to see more years like this year than last year going forward.
Mm-hmm. Okay, stock faller for me. I saw something here and I can't wait to gloat about it here a little bit. So that's why I'm like Oh, I'm so pumped. I just read this. Anyway, sorry. I'm getting completely off the train here. I'm geeking out. It's Don Hudson related, so there you go.
Oh, okay. Understandable.
It's gonna piss off some people, but hey, I'm all about this right now. I'm sorry, but oh man. Stock fallers right now. The NFL. More specifically, Roger Goodell.
I think I know where you're going with this. Rant.
The Thursday night football thing, like he wants it to fly. We talked about this the other day. Kudos to owner Mara from the Giants. I don't know if you heard him come out against it.
Abusive, he called it.
Yes. And then Roger Goodell responded and blah, blah, at the tip. Just stop. First of all, there shouldn't even be Thursday night football. They should get rid of that thing. But it's all about the money. And it's all about making Amazon happy and trying to get the best games possible for Amazon. They don't care about the in-stadium fans anymore. It's all about viewing it at home and then streaming. I know money talks, but trying to flex Thursday night football games is probably one of the dumbest ideas I've ever heard. And you can't do that.
And it's tabled too. This is not done. It's tabled. I still wonder, does the NFL going to strong arm John Mara?
What's that?
Are they going to try to strong arm John Mara?
Yeah.
That's
a legacy owner. I mean, I
think Rooney's against it too.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering if Jerry Jones and company are the ones that are pro this, and well, they've got some influence.
Well, when I saw yesterday that they approved, hey, now teams can have 2 short week Thursday night football games. That does not include the, like the Cowboys will have a Thanksgiving game and then they can play Thursday the next week. That doesn't count. We're talking legit short week games.
Yeah.
Like less than a week. And I'm like, oh,
But also this means that not every team is going to have to play one. So, I mean, you could have some year. I mean, look, the Packers are probably going to be a lock for Thursday night games because they're always going to be a draw, but not necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe. I know I'm very much with you on this. I don't like it. And yet here's the thing. If this is not going to work for the NFL, because I still think this apparently is a legacy thing for Goodell. And I think he has enough owners on his side that he's going to get really close to making this happen. Then what we as sports culture need to do is ignore those games. And I mean, to get all meta here, that means if the Packers got flexed to a Thursday night game, then we as a show and you listening as a Packer fan have to completely turn it on. You essentially boycott the game, pretend it doesn't happen. Don't watch it. Tell all your friends, family members, don't watch it. Give Amazon terrible streaming numbers. That's the only thing that'll make a difference. Because
it won't happen.
I know, because what are we going to do? We're going to watch it.
Yeah, you're going to tell a Packer fan, don't watch a Packer game?
Right.
Come on.
You're going to watch it, and that's what Goodell knows. You're going to watch it.
Yep. Yeah.
It sucks, but you're going to watch it.
Yep.
I will say over and over, there are things though that you start to wonder, like, is there a certain point when you bail on the NFL? And I do kind of, I don't say admire, but I'm like kind of like wowed by people I know that actually have managed to give up on the NFL for whatever reason. They've assorted reasons, but they've actually managed to do it. It's almost like breaking a drug addiction or something, but they did it. They don't care at all. Like, how do you do that? But they do. And I wonder if look, Thursday night football's not a deal breaker for me, but you do wonder, is there a certain point you're like, okay, come on. I don't know, but I agree with you on that. Good stock faller. Stock riser, because it'll pass and the NFL will be more valuable and Amazon will get more valuable. So
you're gonna have to teach Bob how to watch games on Amazon here soon. Although he informed me last week he knows how to do QR codes, which I was impressed with.
Wow.
I was really impressed with.
Technological whiz, Bob Bosold.
Okay, you ready for this? Before we get to a little showdown here, I gotta bring this up.
You're super jacked
bring
about
this up. So remember when Aaron Rodgers said in his Pat McAfee show that he's debatable, whether he's the best player or not franchise history for the Packers? So what the Monday Morning Quarterback from Sports Illustrated did, they talked to one of my idols, Cliff Christo, who's a team historian for Green Bay, and Andrew Brandt and such. They created the top 10 Packers of all time. You ready? This is When it's Cliff Crystal, I listen.
I think I know number 1 is based on your already reaction to this.
So number 10, and this is going to piss people off. Not necessarily maybe who number 1 is, but how a certain quarterback order is going to go.
Okay.
Ready? So the 10th best player in Packers franchise history. Again, Cliff Crystal is a dude who has been around for a very long time. Official team historian, covered the Packers. Dude just wrote that 4-book volume that you can get at the pro shop. You know, I got it. Got to spend $100, but you know, whatever.
So Twitter egg, shut up.
Number 10, Reggie White.
Okay.
Number 10 is Reggie White. And this is where now people are going to get pissed off. Number 9 is Bart Starr.
I can see that. Okay, go on.
Number 8 is Willie Davis. Number 7 is Paul Hornung.
Okay.
Number 6 is Herb Adderley.
Okay.
Number 5 is Willie Wood.
Wow. Okay.
Number 4 is Forrest Gregg.
A lot of 60s Packers, but understandable.
Number 3 is Brett Favre.
Oh.
Number 2 is Aaron Rodgers.
Okay.
And number 1, we did it.
Don Hudson.
Don freaking Hudson. Yeah. This is what Cliff Crystal had to say about Rodgers really quick. One of the best passers I've ever seen, probably the best of throwing on the run. I think those were his best years when he started rolling out, making more of those plays. You look back at so many of his best players, like the toss to Jared Cook in Dallas. He could do it running to his left. Outstanding passer. In regards to Favre, Cliff Crystal said, I think Ron Wolf probably said it best. When he was on the field, he tilted it in your favor. Teammate Leroy Butler said he was the best teammate, in my opinion, ever, and probably in all his sports because nothing bothered him, especially not color, a guy's religion, or his sexuality, anything like that. Going up to just Bart here quick, because I know people are going to be upset that Bart's not ranked higher. Cliff Crystal said the 61 and 62 championships, he was kind of along for the ride. Then in 65, he struggled again. But 66, he was MVP of the league. In 67, those last 2 years, he won the big games. He cemented Lombardi's legacy. Many people who knew Lombardi have told me his goal was to win 3 straight championships. And he always questioned whether Starr could be the guy. That's from Lombardi. He twice tried to I did not know this now. Lombardi twice tried to trade Bart Starr straight up for Don Meredith. And the Cowboys turned him down. That's the first I've ever heard that.
Wow. Dandy Don Meredith, Packer. So this would have, doesn't say the years.
No.
I want to know what years those are.
Yeah.
I really, that makes a big difference in the Packer history knowledge.
Wow. That's the first I've heard about that.
All right. I'm doing a quick Google search on Bart Starr trade Don Meredith to see if this was like, I see one thing from the Packers from 2021. The Great Expectations, Donnie Anderson and Mike McCoy. But again, that's a Cliff Crystal article. Where's the thing on? Yes, talking about that. Okay, so there's been speculation. Is that okay? So where was this?
Yes,
from 2021. He wrote about this.
So was it in one of his Packer columns, Packers.com?
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess maybe you read where Jim Kensel, who was Pete Rozell's top aide, related a story about a dinner he had with Lombardi in early 61 following Meredith's rookie year. Kensel said Lombardi told him that night that he offered Tex Schramm any 2 players on his team in exchange for Meredith, but it wasn't the only time a trade was discussed. So there was one in 61. Says for in the definitive history of the Packers, Jack Kepler told me in an interview that maybe after the 63 or 64 season, he could not remember the exact year, Kepler. He was playing golf with Lombardi. Someone from the pro shop at the country club outside Green Bay tracked them down on the course to tell Lombardi he needed to return a phone call to Tex Schramm. Kepler said it was the only time Lombardi left the course in their many years of playing together to take the phone call. When Lombardi resumed his golf game, he told Kepler that Schramm had just turned down a straight-up deal. Starr from Meredith.
Wow.
So this was after 63 or 64. And that maybe, I'm going to presume the other one would be for the 1961 season.
Yeah.
So in one case, Starr never would have won any championships, at least with the Packers. Who knows how history goes there. And the other would have been, obviously, after the 2, but before the 3 straight? Is it kind of almost immaterial 63, 64 because
There's a big old what if.
Mhm.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's
Uh-huh.
that's why I love Cliff Crystal.
Uh-huh.
All
Yeah,
right.
and then he does a little bit of analysis after that, like his take on some of that. But so those are the years.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
Wow.
Dandy Don Meredith coaching the Packers to an Ice Bowl victory over
Or
Bart
quarterbacking
Starr.
the
Or yeah,
quarterbacking the
Right, yeah.
Packers. Yeah.
quarterback to an Ice Bowl victory over Bart Starr and the Cowboys on the frozen tundra of Lambeau Field.
Wow.
Okay, specifically with that exact
Probably
scenario,
not, but,
no,
yeah.
probably not. I mean, if the NFL championship game had been in, I mean, maybe that the game would have happened. It just wouldn't have been Meredith doing the quarterback sneak in the south end zone. But
Yeah.
Super Bowl winning quarterback Don Meredith, the Green Bay Packer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Maybe, or maybe they don't make the Super Bowl at all, and this whole history is different. Oh boy,
there's so much to digest. From
we got
this right
24
now.
minutes left in the show, and I could spend all of that what ifing these trade possibilities.
Yeah.
There are so many tentacles that come off of this.
I'm interested in the quote that he could have any 2 players. Did he say any 2 players on his roster for Don Meredith?
Oh gosh, and I just closed it.
Oh, that's okay. We got to take a break anyways. So.
I brought it right back up. It was Meredith. Okay, so that was the 61 trade. Yes, he said Lombardi offered Tex Schramm in 1961 any 2 players in exchange for Don Meredith.
Any 2 players?
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, okay, 61?
Yeah, after Meredith's rookie year with the 60 Cowboys when they were an expansion team.
So, I mean, because Paul Hornung won MVP in 60, was that 61 or 62? Early 60s.
Yeah. I don't know if it would have been. You might want to get a hold of Cliff Crystal.
I might have to send him a message here.
I think we need an emergency pod.
Yeah, I might have to text him now. Holy boy.
Wow.
I did not. That's the first I've heard that.
Wow.
Yeah. Interesting.
Okay, you know what we need to do? Any listeners that are really good with doing those uniform photoshops we see like all the time now, we need Don Meredith in a Packers jersey.
And a Bart Starr and a Cowboys.
Yes! Bart Starr in a Cowboys jersey. That talk about getting people riled up.
Wow. Yeah. Well, hey. Star with a star.
Hey now.
The headlines write themselves, right?
That's true.
Yep.
Wow.
All right. Well, we got to take a break now and let that digest there a little bit. Bart Starr's a Cowboys quarterback. Oof. All right. We'll be back in just a couple minutes here. Next Friday, April 7th, we'll be doing the show from Hy-Vee for Friday of the. Can't believe Friday. Next week's the Masters already. Good, great,
Yep.
Gogly Mowgli. But we'll be over there doing a show for the Masters. Carpet City Flooring Center, our awesome friends over there, putting together a putting challenge. They're making this putting green here, baby. And going to be giving away a brand new Odyssey putter, new Callaway driver. So bring your putter on over. Everybody's going to get 3 shots. If you just try it, you're going to be entered in to win that. If you make the putts, more tickets you're going to get. So we'll be there starting at 6 next Friday for the Masters. Big thanks to Carpet City Flooring Center for doing that. It's going to be lots of fun. A lot of fun. All right, let's just jump into Showdown here. 1986 sports, because we've done these already, so we're just kind of rehashing it, right?
The Masters. On
That's
that
a good
note,
segue, yeah. Jack.
yes, sir. The Vern. That was Vern Lundquist.
Vern,
right?
I believe, yeah.
Uncle Vern.
Vern is underrated, I think. I think he kind of gets.
I think he's
forgotten a
gotten
little bit.
properly rated over. I think his history is underrated.
That might be the best way to put it. Yeah.
But since I think, especially once he went to the SEC, and then the whole thing with Bill Raftery, I think it got properly rated. But man's got a history.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then don't forget about his call on Happy Gilmore too. So
also true.
Yeah. 86. Also, that was the Super Bowl for the Bears that year. It was the 85 season, but the Super Bowl was in 86.
Yep.
So
Super Bowl shuffle.
Yep. What do we got for Major League Baseball?
One of the best postseasons.
That's right, Mets over the Red Sox,
and also the LCSs too. The Red Sox home run against the Angels, the Donnie Moore at bat, the Astros winning that. Sorry, the Mets winning that extra inning game 6 over the Astros. Like that was a heck of a postseason.
Yep. College basketball, Louisville over Duke. Johnny Dawkins, College Player of the Year. We mentioned already Larry Bird. Good year for the Celtics.
Yep. Probably one of their best teams ever.
You mentioned already the Masters. What else do we got?
Those are the big ones. Wisconsin sports was not anything to really write home about that year.
Gretzky was doing his thing. Canadians won the Stanley Cup. So that's 86. 2000. We had one of my favorite, maybe the favorite Super Bowl I watched, because I think it's a little nostalgia for me, but that was when the Rams beat the Titans.
Yep.
Kevin Dyson 1 yard short, reaching out there. So got a couple good Super Bowls for this matchup. This is the Lakers beat the Pacers in the NBA Finals.
That was a heck of a playoff run. Also counting the Laker comeback against Portland.
Yeah.
In the Western Conference.
That was
Finals.
the alley-oop.
Yep. One of the
Kobe to Shaq.
Is that Shaquille O'Neal's most famous play?
Ooh. Might be.
I can picture it, and him.
But we can all picture a lot of dunks where he's breaking the backboard too.
Right. But that look on his face, that look on his face as he's running away, and the Blazers are behind him, just like shell shocked at what's going on.
Yep.
I think that might be the go-to one.
I think you're right. And fitting that's kind of Kobe throwing the oop too.
Yeah.
So.
Baseball, I mean, we had the Subway Series, but I remember it was kind of underwhelming.
It was.
I know you had the Clemens Piazza thing, but the series overall was not what we were expecting it to be.
Michigan State beat Florida. Weird. We were just talking about that Final Four.
The Dick Bennett
right?
Final Four run. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, Wisconsin-wise, pretty big deal. Now, golf.
VJ, but U.S. Open.
Right.
Was Tiger, British Open.
Tiger Woods,
PJ champion. Tiger.
So which is more memorable, the Nicklaus 86 or Tiger getting the slam going mid-year?
Ooh, Nicklaus. It is.
Even with the beginning of the Tiger slam.
Yeah.
We're still going Nicklaus.
It's still everybody still talks about the Nicklaus thing.
Was he about 46 years old?
Yeah. So I gotta give it to Nicklaus there. Okay. So this is really good though between these 2 years for sports.
They are, yeah.
Hey, we talked about him earlier. Jaromir Jagr led the NHL in scoring that year in 2000. So,
like, my inclination is to go. I'm going to go 86.
That's where I'm giving a slight edge to.
Baseball playoff push, I think, is what puts it over the top. Because I could actually I might actually lean more towards Woods, and the overall greatness throughout the year. But man, those baseball playoffs were something else.
All right, so both 86 for sports. How about music?
Musically, again, broadly speaking, like top 40 wise, you had like Janet was breaking through that year. It was like Janet Jackson's year overall. Like there was a lot of good music across the board. Like, yeah, I mean, you had stuff like Billy Ocean, Genesis, Madonna was huge in '86. Like she was a well-established superstar. Bon Jovi had their breakthrough. Like they were already kind of popular, but that was the year You Give Love a Bad Name went to number one.
That's Bon Jovi, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Was because this was a movie, so
Yes.
yeah.
So you had both Danger Zone and Take My Breath Away that year. See, now in 2000, I mean, again, there's some good albums and such. This is like the teen pop finale year. I mean, in 2000, you had NSYNC at the beginning of the year, and No Strings Attached breaks the album sales record, and Bye 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 becomes a cultural icon to the point you can do the dance, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not as good as a Woodtick back in Kobe on Kobe Cheese days. Anybody listening that knows that reference is agreeing. Yeah.
But it was kind of dying out. I mean, it was the song was big, if that's any indication. Like that seemed to be kind of a petering out year, and to a degree, like '86 was kind of that way with like the bigness of the '80s. It was just starting to come off a bit. I'll take '86. I know there's nostalgia bias there. You'd probably go 2000 because there's nostalgia bias for you, but I think '86 is the better one.
Okay.
But if the movies were way the other way, that could. I don't know. I think we've already had 2 86s. So what about the movies?
I think I might go 86 movies here. Top Gun. Just played that clip. Stand By Me. Your favorite movie, Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Yes.
Aliens is on there. Platoon. We got Highlander. Was it Labyrinth? David Bowie.
Labyrinth.
David Bowie. Pretty in Pink. You want to go that way?
More John Hughes movies.
The Three Amigos.
Oh my gosh,
that one was on TV all the time when I was a kid. Howard the Duck.
You know, that movie was kind of a bomb when it came. That was a very hyped movie, and then it go wrong.
Hoosiers. One of my favorite movies as a kid. Short Circuit. That's what we call our automatic vacuum cleaner is Johnny Five because of that movie. Crocodile Dundee, Karate Kid Part 2, Color of Money. It's always listed on some of the top sports movies of all time. 2000, you had Scream 3, American Psycho, Gladiator, scary movie, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, Final Destination, Castaway, Remember the Titans, X-Men, Coyote Ugly, Aaron Brockovich. Yeah, it's 86 for me.
Okay. 86 advances.
Yep. 86.
All right.
Oh, and come on, I was born in 86 too, so that's the ultimate.
Also true, yes.
So there we go. So sorry, anybody born in 2000, which really makes me feel old that you're 23 years old right now, but just think anybody born in 2000, you weren't even alive when Favre won a Super Bowl.
Wow. It's been a quarter century since Favre won a Super Bowl.
It's almost been not quite. 10 more years for Rodgers.
It's starting to add up. We're at 12 now.
Yep.
I love how Patriot fans are already freaking out. What's wrong with our franchise? Sit down. Okay.
Well, it was like even like when Duke, like the last few years of Coach K, Duke fans were like, "Oh, Coach K's got to go." God. Just for the love.
The term privilege has been used a lot more in recent years.
Yeah.
And in a lot of cases, if you break it down, it's really understandable. I know it's become like one of those hot topics. In a very superficial way in sports, you talk about fan bases that actually have privilege. Those are like maybe the two best ones.
Mm-hmm.
I'll actually give a little more leeway to Cowboy fans. And it's rare for me to give the Cowboys any credit, but I'll give Cowboy fans credit because it actually has been a really long time since they've done anything. They can complain.
Mm-hmm.
Patriot fans cannot complain.
No.
Duke fans cannot complain.
Mm-mm.
No. Come on.
Nope. Not at all.
Come on.
All right. Final break. I still can't get over that Lombardi tidbit about stock.
I know.
I can't get over that.
For the day.
Man alive. I just like trying to boggle my mind on a big what if. That's wow.
Yeah.
I realized in all my gloating about Hudson being number one, Don Hudson being number one on this list, I didn't read some of the quotes on here. You ready for this?
Go for it.
Bob Snyder, a 6-year veteran of multiple positions with the Rams and the Bears, told Cliff Crystal in 1997, do you realize how great this guy was? He never was split from a dang tackle. I can't say that word. He was a tight end. If they ever moved him outside, he would have made these guys today look silly. He had great speed, great hands, great change of pace. We always feared Lambeau. Lambeau never did it, that he'd split an end or put a guy in motion so we couldn't double team Hudson. We practiced twice on Monday, twice on Tuesday, twice on Wednesday, twice on Thursday, twice on Friday. We had meetings every night. We called it Green Bay Nut Week. All the guys, can't say this word, complained, but Hallis would just go crazy. Yes, love that
You've
stuff.
actually said your son's Hudson name so many times that now when you refer to Don Hudson, I figure my brain immediately thinks you're referring to your son Hudson. And so now I'm pondering your son running around on the field against the Hallis Bears in the 40s, which that wouldn't, let's be real, that doesn't end well.
It made my heart leap a little bit when the other day when my boy Hudson said to me, he's like, Dad, if A.J. Dillon ever leaves the Packers, I won't have any favorite Packers left.
Oh.
And I'm like, well, why do you say that? He's like, because my favorite ones were Aaron Rodgers, A.J. Dillon, Reggie White, Charles Woodson, Devontae Adams, Brett Favre, and Don Hudson. He's only watched 2 of those on that list.
Wow, yeah. Well, he's got a good sense of history, that's for sure.
All right, yeah. So there you go.
By the way, as much as I like him at the point of, like, I'd rather drink, like, arsenic soup than to do an Aaron Rodgers take at this point. But what is your if there's no news, just but what is your son's take on Aaron Rodgers versus Jordan Love? Who does he want to see next year? And you may have already said, and I forget because there have been so many takes, but who does he want to see next year?
Like who? Like is he? I guess disappointed that Rodgers isn't there, or
does he want another year of Rodgers? Is he?
I mean,
moving forward?
He's a little down that Rodgers isn't there, but at the same breath, he said that means I can collect Aaron Rodgers Jets cards. That was his quote.
Okay.
So
okay.
And the weird thing is he wanted, because he's got football mini helmets, but he noticed that Shields during the season, they had the new ones with the Jets new green on there, and going back to last year, he wanted that one because of the Jets helmet in there.
Oh, that's right.
So now I told him, well, guess what? Now you can get that one because of that. So.
Well, hey, maybe we're going to have like alternate.
So he's kind of a uniform geek now, like you too. So there you go.
Yay. Well, you heard the Eagles thing. Now they want like 2 alternate helmets.
Yeah.
And maybe he's going to be having we're going to have 16 alternate helmets. Woo! I'm being facetious. That's not going to happen. But this is starting to get edging a little close to NBA. Hey, who's playing territory? I could get the Eagles doing because they're bringing back Kelly Green alternates. Like we knew that was going to happen. Yeah. So they get the helmets to match. But now they want to keep the black ones too. So, and I don't like it when they do that because they don't look like the Eagles. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
What point do the Packers go gray for gray's sake?
Ooh, that's weird.
Yeah. Well, can you rule it out?
Nope. No.
Gray Packers helmet?
That actually kind of would look pretty cool.
It might actually.
I'm a big gray color guy.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
There's that.
I know a lot of people won't like that. So, all right. If you haven't read that article, I posted it up on Twitter and Facebook. So I'm really curious, that's why I was I figured a lot of people would be upset about the Bart Starr ranking. But hearing what Lombardi thought, does that change it a little bit?
Well,
I don't think it will for some because, be like, well, look what happened. We won Super Bowls.
I mean, again, it's the whole, DeGuano said this. I think some others that he was a really good leader. Was he necessarily the best athlete? No, I think that's not particularly controversial.
No, but that's where was it with you that we did? Yeah, last week the best athlete poll from the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel.
Yeah,
Bart Starr won the Packers bracket, and that's all. And it's not a knock on Bart. I love Bart, but he's not the best athletic Packer of all time.
I think I'd like to think that people can parse who they would want to advance in something like that because maybe their Favre's star has very clearly been tarnished and they're probably sick of Rodgers, at least right now, and that could change. Whereas Bart Starr, comparatively speaking, you'd feel more comfortable moving Bart Starr along if you're voting. On the other hand, if you're reading someone's assessment, you can also agree with that of, yeah, well, they are the more talented athletes.
Mm-hmm. Man, can you imagine if Twitter was around during that whole Dandy Don and Bart Starr trade rumors?
Oh, boy. And with Stephen A's take on it?
Oof. Lombardi, what the hell is Twitter?
And hey, that'd get in on the Cowboy stuff really early.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Gotta get Skip on this. Sorry.
Yeah. All right, that's going to do it for us. DP and a Dancer up next. Have a good Wednesday. We'll be back at it again tomorrow morning, just past 6. Talk to you then.